once and let them blow him away with the Death Star. No Brits was involved, no fingers could be pointed.
You carry on taking the medication, George. Yes, I'd send all the Labour government to space with a one-way ticket and throw in the SNP for being useless. They're all a bunch of... Oh, all right, fair enough.
One person, quite frankly, I think needs to go to space in a one-way journey is Jeremy Kyle. He goes on about his age one more time, how he's 60 this year, he was 59 last year, repetitively over the course of the weeks and months. We have to hear him, I'm 60 this year, I'm 60 this year.
Richard Tice, did you put that cheeky bugger up to that?
I'm hoping he's going to send me the invoice because that was absolutely brilliant.
Which MP would you send to space?
Oh, no, I'll get in terrible trouble if I answer that. But it's fair to say there's quite a long list.
The sad thing is about sending people into space on a one-way ticket is I don't think that we've built a spaceship big enough to take the lunatics off this planet. I mean, from the net zero loonies to the transgender loonies to the racists to the terrorists, there is just so much to the wokerati. We need some big spaceships.
Big spaceships.
Good evening. I never know how you're going to start this conversation, Jeremy.
Katy Perry went to space today, OK? Who would you send... I'd love her to say what I wanted to, but I'd never disrespect her. Who would you send to space who could never come back?
Well, I'd be happy to send Ed Miliband to space, I think.
Oh, that is an outrageous question, so I'm not even going to answer that question.
Sam Matterface, so you get the job, yeah? Go on.
No, Sam Matterface, I tell you what... There's no.
I think David Lammy would be the person I'd want to send up in space and never come back again.
Yeah, the problem is how much would the bill be for him to munch through whatever food on the way there?
Hey, it worked.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's coming up for 3 minutes past 6. It's still dark, by the way. It doesn't look that nice out there, but we are at Wednesday, the 27th of August, and there's lots to do, lots to talk about, much to repeat after yesterday's incredible press conference by Nigel Farage, in which he put up a whole departure board of where he's going to send people: Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan, Morocco, Algeria, wherever, Iran, all these places where, unfortunately, various types who have come here illegally from various different countries need to be deported to. He has created an entire storm of publicity around reform and made it look as though reform are actually the main party in this country. If you woke up in Mars and you suddenly landed on the planet Earth and went, who's in charge of Britain? You'd go, well, surely it must be this guy, Nigel Farage. Front page, finally a politician that gets it, says on the front page of the Daily Mail, as Nigel Farage promises unprecedented measures to halt illegal migration in the face of mounting public anger and despair. That's exactly what he's doing. Labour bids to head off small boats hits trouble, according to the front page of the Times. Plans for French police to intercept migrant boats at sea for the first time are in jeopardy because of the possible collapse of the French government. Unbelievable. The I newspaper says this: Farage's promise to deport 600,000 migrants involves deals with the Taliban and Iran's Ayatollah. And, of course, the Daily Telegraph, Taliban to give Farage deal on migrants. And, at the beginning of the day yesterday, people were going, he's going to have to do deals with people like the Taliban. He's going to have to do deals with horrible governments around the world. And as soon as, of course, the Taliban came out and said, we're willing to do a deal with him, everyone went, oh, my God, you can't do a deal with them. So there's an awful lot of hypocrisy, an awful lot of double-dealing, an awful lot of two-faced nonsense coming out of the political establishment. The bottom line here, surely, is that Nigel Farage has thrown his cards down on the table and nobody really knows quite what to do with them, because they've never ever heard of a politician who actually speaks the language of the common man and woman of this country. And that is why he is so popular. And that is why, in my view, he's going to be the next Prime Minister of this country. 0344 499 1000. Look What You Made Me Do is on the front page of The Sun. That's not about Nigel Farage, by the way, but it might as well be. Instead, it's a picture of Taylor Swift and her soon-to-be betrothed, Travis Kelce, the American football player from Kansas City Chiefs, who is apparently going to marry Taylor Swift, possibly the richest woman in the entire world. So he's done pretty well for himself. Theo Usherwood's here. Very good morning to you, Theo.
Very good morning.
We'll be talking about all the matters arising from what Nigel Farage said yesterday and what Keir Starmer's response has been, which has been, to be honest, pretty bloody woeful, as you would expect. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Lots of other stories as well going on. A Jewish teenager shot in the head with an air rifle somewhere in London. The BBC defending the use of female pronouns for a trans killer. And Morris dancers axed, apparently, because they're a bit racist. Seriously, I mean, goodness me. It is, what is it, Wednesday. Let's get it on. We're here. Theo, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, Mike.
If you were to sort of categorise a political situation where somebody picks up a huge stone, it's not even a pebble, and throws it into the lake and just waits for the reaction, that's pretty much what Nigel Farage did yesterday.
And we knew he was going to do it, and he did it, and it's had the desired effect. And just on that, you know, you mentioned, of course, doing a deal with the Taliban. Now Number 10 and the Home Office are contemplating doing a deal with the Taliban.
They're all because what's interesting, before the Taliban gave their announcement, which was sort of later in the afternoon, everyone was going, well, hang on, he hasn't obviously given any thought to this, because he's going to have to do deals with people like the Taliban.
I listened to an interview, and literally the person doing the interview was spluttering into their cornflakes. You can't possibly do a deal with the Taliban.
Right.
And now it looks like Number 10 are going to go back.
Well, yeah, why not?
Are going to say, let's do a deal with the. We need to do a deal with the Taliban. They're not ruling it out. That was the reaction. So in terms of, it sent shockwaves, this announcement, because suddenly Number 10 and the government, Keir Starmer and his government, they've got to do something, because there's a man who's in Nigel Farage.
He's saying, you know what he's doing? He's saying all the things that we've been saying, sitting here for the best part of the last 5 years. And he's actually saying them out loud in a press conference.
And what's the timing of this is really interesting, because last September, Nigel Farage gave an interview in which he said it was a political impossibility to do mass deportations. And what he's done very successfully is he's allowed the situation to become so bad. You rightly, Mike, all of your listeners have always been on board. This is a problem that just needs to be dealt with, right? But the country hasn't necessarily followed. But the situation has now got so bad. We've seen the numbers, we've seen we've seen the build-up, we've seen what's happening. It happened in Epping. The way that the situation has transpired...
Ordinary people have started to revolt.
Exactly. Ordinary people are now coming on board and saying, you need to do something. And that's why suddenly Nigel Farage has presented this plan now, and it doesn't seem so shocking. It doesn't seem really unreasonable. And actually it's something that most people...
Let's face it, he announces that let's leave the ECHR a day after David Blunkett has urged it in the Times, who is a former Home Secretary in the Labour government of Tony Blair.
And I mean, I've heard rumours that Labour might be looking to follow suit as we get into the autumn. But can you really trust Keir Starmer to take us out of the ECHR? No. So
you can't trust Keir Starmer literally to walk down the street in a straight line.
But Farage has always been. You know, this is what needs to happen.
He's been talking about this like we have for the best part of the last 5 years.
And it won't. That's not to say it won't be a huge battle to make it happen, because the ECHR underpins things like the Good Friday Peace Agreement with Northern Ireland, right? That brings peace to Northern Ireland.
I don't care. I don't care.
You want it sorted?
I don't care. You know, the IRA can get stuffed, and I put them all back in jail if it was up to me. I couldn't give a stuff about the Good Friday Agreement.
But you know, he's going to, and it can be done. And if you look, there's a really interesting piece on page 10. Charles Harness did it again in the Telegraph. And actually, what the experts are saying, from what Farage is looking at, yes, it is possible. It's going to be very difficult, but it can be done as long as he's got it clear in his manifesto when he comes in, and reform with the Tories, without the Tories, has a large majority
the
in the House
people
of
of this
Commons,
country
will
back Nigel Farage. Let's have a look at some of the things he said, because obviously this all happened about 10:30, 11 o'clock yesterday morning, so after our show had finished, and I realised that many of you will be watching and have watched Talk over the course of the last 24 hours, but if you haven't, let's have a look at what Farage said about public disorder.
That without action, without somehow the contract between the government and the people being renewed, without some trust coming back, then I fear deeply that that anger will grow. In fact, I think there is now, as a result of this, a genuine threat to public order.
There is a genuine threat to public order, as we are seeing up and down the country every single week. It gets larger. So far, the demonstrations are relatively peaceful because they're sort of run by the Pink Brigade, as the one is in the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf in London, and mostly it's women and children and families who are doing it, and that tells you that, you know, it's not extremists, it's not the Tommy Robinson Brigade, it's ordinary people who are going, enough is enough. We can't walk around our streets anymore without being harassed by these horrible, ghastly, awful immigrants who have come here, who are clearly not used to dealing with ordinary British women, and they can't handle it.
And I think it's really important that I think it's really important that the protests remain peaceful. Yeah. Because actually,
of course it is.
if you look at what Nigel Farage is saying, it's something he doesn't want to see happen. That's his argument. At least you can say you really believe it or not. But if the protests remain peaceful, then that gives him the credibility to come in and sort the problem out. Farage, I thought yesterday, he went from being that transition from being somebody who just is a political disruptor who wants to, turn over the apple cart over in SW1 in Westminster to actually being a Prime Minister in waiting. He needs to sort this out, and he's got a plan to sort it out. And actually, broadly speaking, when you look at the detail of what he's proposing, you can argue over the numbers, you can argue over the fact it's very difficult to do, but actually, I think it is a plausible plan. I think it is something that government can.
I mean, the point is that the window has moved, hasn't it? You know, it's no longer anathema, apart from dealing with people like John McDonnell and sort of the mad lefties of the Jeremy Corbyn party. It's no longer untenable to suggest that if people come here illegally, they can't stay. If people come here illegally, they have to be deported. If people come here illegally, they have no rights. You know, that used to be a major problem for the Conservative Party. It's not a problem for Nigel Farage now.
But the problem the Conservative Party had was that they made that the case, that if you came here illegally, you had no right to stay here. But because they didn't deport them, you just ended up with huge logjam of people just staying here, unable to have their applications processed because the government hadn't. They had no right to have applications in the first place.
And they started putting them in hotels, which in 2018 wasn't a massive problem because only about 5,000 or 6,000 people came. But now you're talking about 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. You've now got 180,000 people living here in hotels and/or HMOs who shouldn't be here.
And the migrants who came here were perfectly happy to accept it because they were just stuck in hotels. Their applications not being not being processed because they weren't able to make applications.
Well, this is why they keep coming, because they knew if they could set foot on the sandbanks of Dover or whatever it was, the shingle beaches of southeast England, that they would be able to stay here for this sort of time immemorial. And that's the problem. Let's have a look at what Farage says about what reform will actually do about illegal immigration.
But here's what we have to do to make Operation Restoring Justice actually work. We have to leave the ECHR. No ifs, no buts. It may have been a good idea 80 years ago. Frankly, it isn't today. We have to repeal the Human Rights Act of 1998, brought in by a Blair government, many of whose families seem to do rather well off the back of it. We will, for a 5-year period, disapply the 1951 Refugee Convention and any other barriers that can be used by lawyers in this country to prevent deportations, to prevent the right thing from happening. We'll create a legal duty for the Home Secretary to remove those that come illegally. And crucially, we will detain all illegal migrants who come, and we will do so immediately.
Now, of course, Keir Starmer says that that's what he's doing, but we know he's not doing that, despite the number of times that he puts it out on Twitter. If you come to this country, you'll be detained in return. He's not detaining anyone. They claimed yesterday they had detained 100 people, right? What we know is that 3,000 at least have come since they announced the one-in, one-out scheme about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he sent nobody back to France. Nobody's been
And
sent.
even if he does send anybody back to France, according to the Keir Starmer deal, he'll get another 100 people coming the other way.
Yes,
because
it's one
they'll
in, one out.
identify, except it's not one in, one out, because 100 people come here, he sends them back to France, another 100 people come in, that's 100 people plus what we used to have, you know what I mean?
So look, Farage, this is probably the most challenging bit of the whole announcement from Farage yesterday. We've got a detention estate of 2,500, and most of those who fill those beds or those cells come out of prison. They're foreign nationals who've come out of prison and are waiting to be deported, so they can't just be let out into freedom and then be expected to come back. So they're then placed in. They go from prison into detention accommodation, and he's got to ramp that up from 2,500 up to 24,000, and that's going to be really difficult. That's going to be really difficult to do.
Yeah, or impossible, some might say.
But as long as he can, because part of the problem is that if you tell somebody that you're going to deport them, they're going to, and you put them in a hotel or you put them in a house of multiple occupancy, you're not going to see them again. They're going to flee. They're going to, they're going to enter the grey economy, and then you're going to be impossible to track down. So that's a really key part of it, and it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be a former military site. They're going to have to build very quickly, and to get that
migration centres.
Yeah,
but
migration centres.
Other places have done it. You know, other countries in Europe have done it. They've done it in Greece. They've done it in Italy. You know, they've stopped the boats coming into those two countries, basically, by and large, because they've just said, look, if you come here, you won't be given any kind of succour or comfort. You will be sent straight back from whence you came, and you will be considered to be a criminal.
Yeah, and you go into one of those centres. That's I would from looking at it, I think that's probably the biggest challenge of it. But yeah, absolutely, it can be done as long as it's clear in the manifesto, and as long as he gets a majority in the House of Commons. Then he can put it through the House of Commons, and the House of Lords can't repeal it because it's been in the manifesto. So they can't say, "Well, we didn't know about it." They have to accept what's been. They have to accept the will of the House of Commons, and it would go through.
And when it comes to the Taliban, for example, there will be those people, and some of them who were asking the question yesterday. Well, if you do deal with the Taliban and you send all these Afghans back to Afghanistan, what happens if they all get tortured and murdered? To which I think Nigel Farage's view, I don't know whether he said it yesterday, would be, well, tough.
I think he said it in an interview with the Times, didn't he? He did an interview with the Times for the weekend, and he turned around and he said, well, we can't be expected to take everyone. Where do our obligations actually, the most British people, where do our obligations stop?
Yeah.
And he'd make the argument, and this is... it might get ugly. It might get ugly. You might end up in a situation where 10 people get deported.
Couldn't give a stuff, quite frankly.
Get deported.
Right, let's have a look at how Sky News actually dealt with this, because here's an episode. I mean, a lot of people asking questions about this. Sky News focused on the term fighting age men. Check this out.
But there's one use of language that I heard Zia Youssef use today. I think Nigel Farage used it as well during the speech. Yeah. This idea of talking about fighting-age men coming over here. You know how loaded that is. You know what that suggests.
Do you know the countries they're coming from?
Let me finish the point before you answer. Yeah. It's indicative of this idea of invasion. I mean, and Ellie Chowns, actually, not to quote her all the time, but she talked about, when we talk about working-age men, which actually you used earlier, you said that people coming here who want to work, that is something different. So why use this fighting age over working age?
I tell you why. Because the places that most of these people are coming from, if you look at the countries from which they're arriving, these are countries where there is a state of war.
And that's Gawain Towler, who is a former assistant to Nigel Farage, spin doctor for Reform, who comes on this show quite regularly, and who is a man who speaks very well, I think, on behalf of Reform. That's a typical kind of, Sky News take on it, right? Why do you use these terrible terms? Why do you suggest that these are fighting age men? Well, because they're coming from places where there's supposed to be a war going on, where they're supposed to be fighting, where they're supposed to be fleeing horrors that are going on behind their backs. They come to this country in order to escape that, and so therefore they are fighting age men. Surely that's not a problem.
The real scandal in all of this is we just don't know who they are.
Right.
We just don't know who these individuals are.
Why is the media, and I don't like to call them the mainstream media, because we are also mainstream. We are run by the biggest news organisation in the entire world, so it's wrong to say that we're not mainstream media, right? But what I would say is the BBC and Sky in particular have got a real bee in their bonnet, because they think that we're all right-wing racist racist, horrible people, and we're categorising, and that's their problem.
That's the accusation.
And they're categorising these men, saying, "Oh, they're vulnerable men. They're coming." You know, they're not vulnerable men. Many of them are rapists, many of them are sexual assaulters, many of them are criminals, and many of them are undesirable people who should not be anywhere near this bloody country at all. Thank you very much.
And we don't know, and nobody can provide an answer as to who they are. There are no checks,
right?
And they are just you arrive in the.
But what's wrong with the media? This is my question, and I know that it's difficult because you don't necessarily want to castigate them, but I will.
Yeah.
You know, they should be being more responsible and sticking up for Britain as opposed to going, oh, why are you calling them fighting age men? Well, because they bloody well are fighting age men. You complete plonker.
If you imagine this is where I. If you imagine that somebody was to say, if you were to start all over again, and you were to suddenly say, we are going to allow 800 people, mostly men, to turn up at Dover every single day.
Right.
We don't know who they are or where they've come from or whether they have any criminal records. And we're just going to put them. We're going to allow them into this country.
Sort of weird views about women.
Anything we don't know anything about them, and we're then going to place them in hotels or in houses
and give them the opportunity to wander around the towns in which they are now living.
It would be madness. We're in a situation which is sort of like the boiling a frog slowly.
Yeah.
Where it's suddenly okay because the situation has got so progressively worse.
Yeah.
That we suddenly find ourselves in a situation where we think, well, that sounds reasonable. It is the situation at the moment is unsustainable.
Yeah.
It has to be.
And it's also unacceptable.
Yeah, unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. Yeah. You know, if I had a teenage daughter, I don't, luckily, she's a bit older now, but walking around anywhere near one of these hotels, you know, I'd be walking with her, and if one of these scumbags came out and started leering at her and started talking to her and started trying to chat her up, you know, you'd get a punch in the face. Simple as that. And that's how people feel.
People are really angry.
That's how people feel.
People are really angry.
Right?
Yeah, people are really angry.
And they're quite right to do it. How about this? Surely it's time now, says Howard in Suffolk, to shut down BBC News, Sky News, Channel 4 and ITV. Questions from the mainstream media yesterday at the press conference were so out of touch. Listen, I don't want to shut down any media at all. No. That would be wrong. However, they need to take a stiff lesson from what we do here, and they need to understand that if you're going to... You know, Nigel Farage stood there for an hour yesterday and took a load of questions from the media, and almost all of them were from a left-wing perspective. And that's where this country's gone wrong, because you've got an entire nation which is not represented by its media, you know? We are we understand we're a small part of the media, as is GB News, but we're actually telling the truth. But these bloody idiots aren't.
And something in favour of Nigel Farage, to stick up for Nigel Farage, is that every press conference he always takes all of the questions. And there's this. What I would say is I think there's a bit of a myth that Farage isn't putting himself up to scrutiny.
Right.
If Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, I'm not saying he will become Prime Minister,
I think
come to a general election, but he would have faced more scrutiny than any other political leader. To announce a major plank of your policy this far out from a general election, 2029, to 3.5, 4, going on 4 years out from a general election, to face that scrutiny and to have to bus in journalists and to take questions from... I didn't see any complaints yesterday from any journalist who wasn't permitted to ask a question.
No.
From right across, including those of a left-wing bent, shows that actually he is putting... You cannot lay it at Farage's door, which is often the case of criticism of Farage, that he dodges or he evades scrutiny.
No, he doesn't. He never has.
He is getting more scrutiny. He is getting more scrutiny now.
The only guy that evades scrutiny is bloody Keir Starmer, who hardly ever has a press conference, and I don't think Keir Starmer's ever had a press conference where he's allowed the press to ask him questions for an hour.
No,
I don't think he's ever done that.
I've been to many of them.
You've been in the room,
and he is not. And
he scuttles off.
And there are a limited number of questions, usually not more than 4 or 5 questions.
Absolutely extraordinary. Theo Usherwood's here. Somebody who's obviously lost the plot says Theo Usherwood was an excellent guest with Mike Graham. He's rational and very well informed.
Sorry.
Gordon in Glasgow. Well informed and rational. I'm sorry. It's 6:24. We'll be back after this.
knife crime, sexual violence, repeat offenders. There's no political profit in tackling that, no donor money, obviously, no headlines, and certainly no lucrative contracts. You know, this is a mayor who's moved heaven and earth to roll out ULEZ cameras, to fine pensioners, delivery drivers, but can't even be bothered to prioritise basic safety. So yeah, I do think there's an issue and there's a conflict of interest.
No, well, you know, I think there's certainly something that needs to be dug about there. It does seem interesting.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:28. I don't know where the first half hour has gone, frankly. We're here with Thea Usherwood, and we're talking about Nigel Farage's press conference yesterday, because Nigel Farage did what most politicians never do, actually came out and told the truth, one, and two, actually told people in this country what they wanted to hear. Let's have a voice note from Paul.
I'm still reeling off Nigel Farage yesterday, me. Absolutely ecstatic. The best speech I've heard in politics. It really is. So we'll see what he does, eh? Have a good day, mate. And yeah, I'm sat here watching you. So crack on, pal. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on, Paul. Absolutely right. I mean, people like to hear politicians talking their language, and nobody else does it better than Nigel Farage. Let's have a look at what Channel 4 News said when they were asked to ask a question to him yesterday.
There is a realistic possibility that if you go forward with this, there might be a case where someone arrives in the UK by a small boat, you send them back to the country from which they came, and they will be tortured or killed because of a decision that you've made. How does that sit with you?
Well, the alternative, of course, is to do nothing. I mean, that's the very clear alternative, is we just do nothing. We just allow this problem to magnify and grow. We cannot be responsible for all the sins that take place around the world. It's just literally impossible.
And that is a very good and cogent kind of conversation to have. Yeah. And when you see the number of people there who were there from the press, I don't know if you were there yesterday, but you see the pull that Nigel Farage has. Yeah. And he's quite right to say, you know, we can't be responsible for what happens to people. If they have decided to come here, risk their lives to get here, come over on the, you know, the dinghies from Calais, you know, and we deport them back to the place from which they came, it's not really our problem. If they get tortured, if they get killed, I mean, he didn't quite say it in those words, but this from Malk in Hertfordshire, who says, why the big hoo-ha about reform sending illegals back to Afghanistan? Denmark and Germany, to name but two, have sent people back there, and they have. That's absolutely right.
The other thing to say, Mike, is that people who come to this country from Afghanistan, or let's say another country where they would face torture, or death, is they travel through countries and then they decide to come to Britain.
Yeah, exactly.
When there's been polling of these migrants, and like, where do you want to come to?
Yeah.
They all want to come to England. They all want to come to Britain.
Yeah, right.
This is
and
the
I
Eldorado.
wonder why that is.
And this is the Eldorado.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, giving you a lecture about your pull factors and the fact that people can come here and work here and
when French politicians actually call this country Eldorado for migrants,
you know, so the point is, and Farage didn't make this point yesterday, and maybe they will further down the line. But if you are travelling from Afghanistan and you are seeking refuge and you are seeking freedom, you know, trying not to be tortured and trying not to be murdered by the Taliban, and you get to a country, let's say Germany or France, you are safe in that country. Yeah. You could be safe in Greece. You could be safe in Turkey. Yeah. You don't have then to come onto Britain. And part of the problem is that this country has become the end point, the landing point. The problem in this country is more acute.
This is the final destination.
You know, when Emmanuel Macron came over and gave that press conference with Keir Starmer, he said, you know, we've had problems in the northern region of France with migrants. We've got problems in Bournemouth. We've got problems in Norfolk.
Yeah.
We've got problems in Essex.
Yeah.
The problems that Macron talks about in one region of France are right across the country.
Yeah.
Because of
but
the pressures.
to be fair to France, I mean, they've also got problems all over the place. I mean, you remember the Bataclan, with that horrible, ghastly, invasion of Paris in 2015 by a load of Islamist, fundamentalists with machine guns who came into a music venue and started just murdering people and butchering them. Most of them came from a tiny, tiny town in Belgium because that's where they had kind of coagulated over the course of the previous 10 years, and it was more or less a no-go area. So France has got a whole region of different problems, whether it's not, I mean, he might talk about the northern coast of Normandy, but he's also got problems in Marseille, he's got problems in Nice, he's got problems in Lyon, he's got problems all over France.
But to be fair, I mean, we can compare France and Britain. Our intelligence services are the best in the world, and when it comes to dealing with those kind of extremists, we are.
No, I get that. I get that. What I'm saying is that it's not. He doesn't just have a problem in Calais.
No, he doesn't just have a problem in Calais. But when he spoke about the problem of migrants,
these are dangerous people. Let's not beat about the bush here. Let's not pretend that they're all sweetness and light. We saw pictures yesterday in the front pages of men carrying children and trying to get into boats. And I'm sure there's a bit of that going on. But by and large, I would say those people doing that are putting their own children at risk. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take my child on a dangerous journey across the channel on a dinghy, because I would call that child abuse. But an awful lot of these people who are coming to Britain, who have come from France, are, potentially machine gun wielding scumbag Islamist fundamentalists.
But they've got safety. This is the crazy thing. They've got safety. They're in France. They're safe.
Yeah,
they're in Germany. They're in
where the hell
they're
you
in
are.
Spain if they've come across from North Africa. They're in Italy.
Yeah.
They've reached safety. They've reached the point of safety.
Right.
They don't. If you wanted to say let's be part of a system where actually we take a number of people, a defined number of people, we can do the checks on them, and we can find out exactly who they are, whether they've got a criminal record, and whether they have even any sort of legitimate right to stay in this country. Most people would say that's okay, but you can't have this taxi system that's taking place across the English Channel, where they're escorted into the middle of the English Channel, picked up by the border force, brought back to Dover, and then given...
because all of these people, and this is why Nigel Farage was so clever yesterday to do the press conference that he did, because he asked, for example, let's have a look at this, whose side are you actually on when it comes to migration? Check it out.
And what began as a protest of mothers and concerned citizens outside the Bell Hotel in Epping has now spread right across the country. And all of it really poses one big fundamental question. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts?
And that, again, is a very popular point to make. Whose side are you actually on? Do you really want to continue to see this ridiculous kind of influx of people of whom, as you say, we know nothing? Or do you want to be on the side of women, children and families who are actually protesting about the fact that they're putting up with these ghastly individuals in their communities?
And it's those parts of the country, not so well off parts of the country outside of London, that are bearing the brunt of this. And it makes, and when you have a system like our asylum system that is completely broken, that doesn't work, that is allowing people who we do know nothing about to come to this country to effectively work, because we've got no sanction against them, and the hotels or houses of multiple occupancy, that actually it removes the liberal argument, any liberal argument for saying we actually need, and this is where I think what's happened is there are a lot of people who actually would like us to have a fair and equitable and functioning asylum system, so that we are able to help people.
But those voices are getting smaller and
smaller. But they're getting drowned out because the system's completely broken.
Well, you end up with people like John McDonnell you know, the former shadow chancellor when he was in Jeremy Corbyn's opposition party in Labour, a man who was a fine supporter of the IRA, talking about how, oh, isn't it terrible that this is the kind of country we are now, we're going to be, you know, rejecting children who want to come here for a safe haven. Well, that's not the story, I'm afraid. John McDonnell, you got it completely bloody wrong, because at the end of the day, it's not about children coming here seeking refuge, it's about grown men, fighting age men, whether Channel 4 or the BBC like it or not, coming here and molesting women. That's what they're doing.
People are, you know,
on a regular basis in all sorts of parts of the country.
Yeah, look, it's
the argument's over as far as I'm concerned. Do you know when they said, you know, climate change, there is no argument anymore? Over immigration, illegal immigration, the argument's done.
And that's why
there isn't anywhere to go.
And that's ultimately why Farage has chosen this moment.
Yeah.
Because the argument is done.
Yeah.
If he was to have done this announcement a year ago, you would have had this, well,
yeah.
What is this? You know, that voice that you heard there, where you say, well, what about what happens if somebody is deported and then they're tortured back in Afghanistan?
Exactly.
That would have had much more credence and it would have had much more gravitas to it, right? But because, of course, we've had all of the news, we've seen what's happened over the past 12 months. We've now got a system that's got worse under this government. The timing for Farage works.
Nearly 52,000 people have come here illegally since Keir Starmer has been Prime Minister. 52,000.
And it will surpass...
Where are they all living? We've only got 32,000 apparently in hotels.
How's the multiplicity?
So...
flats?
Yeah, exactly.
Houses.
But people yesterday and all of this week have started getting in touch with me saying, actually, there's an HMO down my street. Yeah. We're not happy about it. People know what's going on. People are not going to put up with it.
And there's no... And as you had a councillor from Portsmouth, was that last week? Who said actually the council wasn't even told.
Yeah.
So you had the Home Office
like 55
we've brought up this house, and that's also having a knock-on effect in terms of it's driving up rents. So that if you're trying to rent in an area and a landlord can charge the Home Office, you know,
and again, the bottom line is the government can't continue to treat the public in this country, who are the taxpayers, who fund all of this crap, as if they're completely not worth talking to.
Well, they're going back to the Court of Appeal tomorrow.
We're not having it. It's as simple as that. 0344 499 1000. It's 6:39. Let's get a voice note from James.
Good morning, Mike. Now it's tough talk from Nigel. Let's hope he can deliver it if he gets elected. I just want these scumbags deported, Mike. That's all I'm asking for. People that shouldn't be in this country, out you go. Tough, get out. I can't understand how people would disagree with that. But that's just me anyway, Mike. Anyway, keep up the great work, Mike. Superb show.
James, thank you very much indeed. That's how people feel. You know, whether or not some of these people may be deserving, they don't give a crap. They basically say, look, they're scumbags, they come in here, we know that they're committing offences. Not all of them, but an awful lot of them are. And in every single part of this country where these people are being put up, we're seeing it more and more and more. People are being arrested, people are being caught out, you know, molesting children, trying to kidnap children, trying to rape young women, sexually assault them. You know, it's an absolute farrago of madness.
But it was interesting, your correspondent there who sent in that WhatsApp voice note made the point he wants Farage to deal with it, right? So that's going to be...
People believe that Farage will do it.
Look,
and that's a big difference from what they think Keir Starmer... Keir Starmer put out a tweet yesterday, more or less kind of, somebody suggested to me, is that I put it into ChatGPT, how do you make me sound like Nigel Farage? And that was what his tweet was. You know, it was like, you know, if you come to this country, you will be detained and deported. Except you won't be, because he's not doing it.
No.
You know, he said he was doing it. Yesterday we were told he's got 100 people to deport. Well, let's see them. And where are they being held? And let's see you deporting them. You know, he's not doing it because he knows he can't. It's not happening. It's 6:40. We'll take more and more of your calls. Brilliant move by Nigel. It's called a deterrent. If they think they're going back to Afghanistan, they'll stay in Europe and not come here, says Steve in Sussex. I think that's a very good point, actually, because, you know, people worry about, you know, whether or not the Taliban's going to stone them to death. One, I couldn't give a toss whether they get stoned to death. Two, if they're in France, maybe they'd be better off staying there, because they go, if they come to Britain, they'll be back in Kabul before you can say kaboom. You know what I mean? We'll be back after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:43. I'm Mike Graham. This from Simon in Durham, who says, I think what Farage puts forward is what most right-thinking people want. Whether it's able to be enacted is something we can't properly answer yet. A huge overhaul is essential all the same, or at the very least the desire to try. The issue might be if Reform don't form a majority, any coalition might leave a lot of what he proposes in the dust. Well, I mean, that certainly is an issue which we may have to discuss as we get closer and closer to, you know, the next government, the next election. Theo Usher is with me here. There's no question, though, that he's set his stall out and everybody else is now chasing him and following him in his wake. You know, Kemi Badenoch yesterday tried to say, oh, he's just nicked all of our ideas. And everyone went, yeah, thanks very much, see you later. Nobody cares. Keir Starmer tried to put out a tweet yesterday which kind of echoed what Nigel Farage said. Everybody knows Keir Starmer is not Nigel Farage. He's not going to be able to do it.
So he's basically, he's completely taking us out of the ECHR. That's the difference.
Yeah.
He's not disapplying it.
Yeah.
He's not changing
He's
the
not
rules.
suspending
he's not
our
suspending
relationship
it. He's
with
just
it.
taking us. He's taking us
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
He's then got to. He's then going to have to. In what this is, two things might happen. He needs to then unpick it from domestic law. And then there may be a common law challenge, and this is what Dominic Grieve, I know this is a kind of throw the staple at the wall moment, Mike, former of Remain, former Attorney General, Conservative Attorney General, made the argument that judges may try and use common law to uphold asylum claims in this country, and then it's likely that Reform would have to change the law to block that from happening. So you're probably looking at a window, providing they have a decent majority in the House of Commons. It's in the manifesto, but you're probably looking at a window of 12 to 18 months before anything happens, where they get the law ship-shape, ready to go, the legislative process takes place, and then you will see, and then once that's in place, and this is the point that Rishi Sunak never got to, Keir Starmer has been absolutely adamant until this point, he doesn't want to get to in terms of removing us from the ECHR. There's some talk that Labour may shift on that as we head into the autumn. Let's wait and see what exactly they say. But actually then when you get to the sort of a year, 18 months in, if Farage can get the law as it needs to be, then you can start. Then he could start as a government deporting people very quickly to countries. You can start detaining them.
Well, we've
and
seen it
deporting
in
people
America.
very
You know,
quickly.
Trump said he would do it, and he did it. And he's still facing various problems. You know, there are still legal problems, and some judges are challenging him, some states are challenging him, but he's getting it done. And he said when he was talking to somebody, I can't remember who, he said, what's the number of illegal migrants coming across the border in the last month? 0. And they've done it in Greece, they're doing it in Italy. It can be done.
There's 2 points. You know, I don't think if Farage deported 500,000 or 400,000 migrants in his first parliament as Prime Minister, I don't think anybody would begrudge him that and say, well, what about the extra 200,000, right? The other point is, then this is the really important point that you make, is that suddenly you really do break the business model, because when you end up as a migrant on the north coast of France, and you realise, you see the news, you see the TikTok videos of people being deported. You have
and also that point made by one of our listeners and viewers. If you think you're going to get sent back to Afghanistan, you might just stay where you are.
Exactly.
And I think that's the point.
And
surely
then
that's a good thing.
and then suddenly the business model
Collapses.
breaks,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you don't want to pay somebody to come to a country which is suddenly going to land you back in Afghanistan 6 weeks later.
No.
So you end up staying in France. The part of the problem I think will be with this, and you can say it's a problem or not a problem, but you know who's going to hate it, right? Macron's going to hate it, the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz is going to hate it. Europe is going to go mad with this.
Well, it's their fault that they're all there in the first place, thanks to Angela Merkel and their stupid idea to bring in everyone from Syria and go, if you're from Syria, just come to Germany. You know, meanwhile, they came from every bloody country in the world. Let's talk about Rachel Reeves, though. She's on the front page of The Times today. She's been handed a fresh economic dilemma as she prepares for the autumn budget by surging government borrowing costs, which were close to their highest level in nearly 3 decades yesterday. Now, if you were Rachel Reeves and you were under sort of the pressure that she's under, would you go out and do a sort of cheery video about how great you're doing and how wonderful the economy is? I would suggest probably not. However, that's not what she did, because she decided, actually, let me go out and trying to convince everyone that everything's going really, really well. Here's what she actually did yesterday. Check it out.
Hi, Mark. Hello, I'm Rachel. The thriving creative industry sector here in Northern Ireland. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lovely to meet you all. Support local and national government here in Wales. To bring more investment to Scotland and the whole of the United Kingdom. This is all part of our plan for change. Growing the economy, creating more good jobs, paying decent wages in all parts of the country to make working people better off.
So she's gone to Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland to try and prove that everything's going well, shaking hands with a bloke with no teeth, going, "Yo, this is great, isn't it fantastic?"
That's not you on the guitar.
It's like the Shadows backing group, you know. What's she thinking? This woman is completely and utterly useless. She's also promoted that complete and utter moron, Torsten Bell, who everybody tells me is very important and incredibly intelligent.
Very intelligent.
That's what they all say, right?
Very
Do you
intelligent.
remember when they said Sue Gray was the greatest analyser of a government policy in the world, and that she was going to chart the first 100 days, and that she was a woman of great integrity, didn't even last 100 days, 93 days she lasted, and that was her own plan, right? This bloke, Torsten Bell, is the guy that came up with the Ed Stone for Ed Miliband.
The pledges, the commandments.
The 10 Commandments of Ed Miliband.
Didn't the Sun find it in a lockup?
Yeah, it's in a lockup down in Hastings. Yeah. Somebody should just take a hammer to it and start. But this, the problem with politics in this country is that the myths are sort of written by people who don't know anything about the real world, and they go, "Oh, Torsten Bell." First of all, his name's Torsten. That immediately disqualifies him, in my view, from being anybody sensible talking to the general public. I would lock him in a room and don't let him out. And if he's that clever, let's see what he's actually come up with. What has he actually done that makes him clever? What's he done that makes him clever? Sorry, I'm asking you.
I tell you who he worked for. He ran the Resolution Foundation.
So, what's that about?
It's about raising taxes.
Right. So, that makes him how does that make him clever? The guy's a moron. He came up with the Ed Stone. Retire now. Don't even bother going anywhere near the rest of the human race, because you're a complete bloody moron.
Right.
I'd like to have him sitting here where you're sitting, and I know that you might have to defend these people.
I'm not defending him. I'm not defending him.
But you ran the Resolution Foundation where they went, let's just raise a load of taxes, and anybody who makes any money, just take it off them and give it to some low-life scumbags who don't want to work, and maybe some migrants. Brilliant. Give the bloody twat a Nobel Peace Prize. Who cares? Right? I'm sorry. I'm in a bad mood. Sorry about the word twat. I didn't mean to say that. It came out wrong. I wanted to say twit. There's another word that begins with W and ends in cur that I also wanted to say, but that's why I went with twat. Anyway, sorry. I know it's early, 6:51. Sorry about that.
Right. Torsten Bell.
What's good about Torsten Bell? End. Anything else?
No.
Sorry.
Look, Rachel Reeves got to find £30 billion of tax rises because borrowing
because
costs.
She's an idiot. Because she's an idiot, and she put all of these things in the last budget which ruined the economy and crashed it. And now she's going, I haven't got any money, so I'm going to have to tax you some more.
Yeah.
These people are morons. Do you not get it? These are not clever people. Rachel Reeves has got an IQ of about 5. Welcome to Northern Ireland. My producer says I should take a break before I say anything else. All right, fine. 6:52. See you in a minute.
you can't try and snipe at the Conservatives for things that weren't our fault.
Oh, I mean, I
This
haven't
is
got
not one.
time. Tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people, then we can solve that problem like that.
Won't be surprised to know I disagree.
Why do you disagree, though? Why do you want our young people left on the scrap heap? The court's time being wasted, laying down a ruling on what is a woman. You and I have been speaking for far too many years about
And
this.
actually, you know, I'm very grateful to you too, because you have always covered this topic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 6:55. I've been told that I'm going to stay away from politics now for a couple of minutes, and we're doing some showbiz to try and calm me down. I don't know whether that's going to work, though. Taylor Swift's on the front pages a lot this morning because she's getting engaged to her new beau, the man who is, of course, the American football player Travis Kelce. The pop singer posted the news on Instagram yesterday, and the Instagram and sort of the internet melted, didn't it? It's one of those things where
I mean, this is like the biggest.
People love Taylor Swift. I mean, I like Taylor Swift. I'm going to say it quite openly. I know there will be people who go, "Oh, why do you like her?" I just think she's great. I think I quite like her music. I think she's a brilliant, she's a very good-looking woman. She's a very independent and successful woman. Why wouldn't you like her?
And she's you know, she's a fantastic talent, and we don't have, you know, I feel like, you know, the world is sort of, when you can do all of your social media posts and everybody does their own stuff, user-generated content, we often, I think, have lost the sight of just having
let's face it,
straight-up pop stars.
Let's face it, and we're not going to make it political, but, you know, who would you rather champion, Taylor Swift or Carol Vorderman? You know, let's go with Taylor Swift, shall we?
Taylor Swift.
I think so. I think so. Very successful
but she's a proper pop star, and he's a proper sports star.
Yeah. They both excel in what they do.
And they're fantastic pictures. Yeah. And I love this. This is slightly lost on me, but maybe some of the younger listeners will get it. Your English teacher and gym teacher are getting married. Apparently, it's a Swift post set to So High School song about Kelce.
Oh, okay.
And I think
because what we shouldn't forget as well is when she came to the UK and rest of Europe to do her tour last year, I mean, there was so much money generated. You know, billions and billions and billions of pounds. I mean, people talk about the Oasis tour, which has done very, very well as well, and we should congratulate the Gallagher brothers for getting back together and stop being idiots. But you know, Taylor Swift was the kind of the water carrier, if you like, who suddenly made this incredible money-making tour over the course of a year, where she went all over the world, and everywhere she went, people were paying, you know, ridiculous amounts of money. Billions and billions of pounds generated for the economy here in Britain when she came. I think we should be very proud of Taylor Swift.
And it gave the music industry new life, because of course streaming means that you can't make money now for selling records. No. There's just no
live
Spotify
performances.
It's just killed it. It's all about live performances. And suddenly if you've got that absolute star quality that she has, where people will travel far and wide to see you play, then you can do well. And like you said, it doesn't just create money for her, but you know, all of the bars, all of the merchandise. You know, the
business, rock and roll business. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the whole hospitality, you know, promotion business, and apparently when they played at Murrayfield, Oasis, they took £2 million a night in the bar alone.
That's incredible.
2 million.
That's incredible.
I mean, that's a lot of drink, I know, but you know, maybe Taylor Swift fans don't drink as much. And we have to finish up with Meghan Markle. I'm not going to say she's a great woman, independent woman. She's got a new series out which they filmed a while ago. We've got some clips which we'll play later, where she talks about, you know, how awful it was having to wear nude tights in the royal family. Kinsey Schofield was going to be talking to us in a little while. Absolute rubbish, right? She didn't have to do that.
No,
She's a compulsive liar. She should actually join the government. They should give her a job in, you know, they should get rid of Lisa Nandy and give Meghan Markle the job of media, culture and sport, so you can tell a load of lies every day.
I'm just being myself now. She's left the royal family. You know, but that's being in the royal family is service.
That's what they keep saying.
That's what you do.
That's what they keep saying.
You have to turn up to things which you don't want to be at and cut ribbons and pat people on the back and wish people well and ask them how they're doing, knowing you'll never see them again.
I know.
It's service.
It's not interesting. All right, we've got to go. Anyway, listen, we've got more to come. Another 3 hours of madness coming after the news.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash, 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 smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs. People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer is on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 7:03. I've had a deep breath. I've taken a deep breath and I've decided to try and go on forward in the next hour without saying anything terrible and without swearing. I can only promise that I'll try and do that because it is bloody frustrating when you look around this country and you see what's going on in the government and you see who's going up in the world, right? Torsten Bell, who's apparently been promoted by Rachel Reeves, the bloke who came out with the Ed Stone, is apparently considered to be an economic genius. Really? Oh, great. Here's some breaking news for you. Ofgem has raised the energy price cap for October by 2%. I thought Ed Miliband said we were going to be better off. I mean, it's not even winter yet. We were supposed to be saving money. What happened to the 300 quid saving that we were going to get from the electricity bills? What happened to that? The price cap's gone up, right? For October, 2%. Crikey. Anyway, listen, we're going to talk about Nigel Farage, obviously, in his press conference yesterday, in which he set his stall out and he basically said, look, we're going to do away with the ECHR, we're going to do away with the UN Convention on Human Rights, we're going to do away with all sort of human rights nonsense for these scumbags who are coming here illegally. And if you arrive here illegally on our shores, you will be sent immediately back from whence you came. They put up a really, really big press conference yesterday. You can see it there now on the screen as we speak, with the sort of departure board, deportation departures, and a very good idea it was as well. Let's send them back. The Taliban have even agreed that it's a good idea. The Taliban say we're willing to talk to Nigel Farage to take some people back to Afghanistan. And what we know about the people who come here from Afghanistan is that we've smuggled in loads and loads of them over a period of time because we thought that they had helped us in the fight against the Taliban way back when. We've got hundreds of thousands of them who are living in HMOs, who are living in your street. We'd love to hear from you if you've got a view on that, and if you can even tell us about HMOs in your area, because every single council in Britain is now doing what can only be described as stealth work to try and keep it secret, that they won't tell us exactly where these HMOs are. Let's get a voice note from Andy on Nigel Farage.
Morning, Mike. Andy from Birmingham. Hope you're well, mate. Yeah, listen to Nigel's obviously press conference yesterday, and honestly, he's probably one of the best speeches I've heard off a politician for a very, very long time. And just in like, I know you've been talking about it with Theo, the legacy media, my God, shambles. I'm ashamed of them. They shouldn't be ashamed of themselves. Same questions. You know, I bet they're the same ones that go on the planes with Starmer everywhere and like, couldn't look to him while they're on the 777 over to America. Absolute disgrace to them. Have a good day, mate.
Andy, nice to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got lots to talk about, including the fact that Rachel Reeves has completely ruined the economy to such an extent that she don't really know what to do next. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We'll talk about the Notting Hill Carnival and we'll talk about the Home Office as well. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Stuart in Ramsden Bell House says this. Morning, Mike. The legend. Keep going. Never a truer word spoken. Superb show. Theo is a worthy wingman as ever. Surely the road show surely awaits. Well, you know, I've got some breaking news coming up a little bit later on in the show. Jeremy Carl's going to be joining us. We've got a big announcement to make a little bit after 9 o'clock, and we'll be telling you more about what it is that we're doing. Here's one from Chrissy. He says she's laughing her backside off. Mike is the best thing on TV. I absolutely love him, like I'm sure many do. He says what we're all thinking. He cracks me up so much, makes my morning every single morning. Please don't be mad at him. That's aimed at my producer Christian, who's told me to please behave, otherwise we're all going to be in terrible trouble. And listen, I can't help it. Sometimes I just wake up and go, do you know what? I've had enough of this crap. And I'm just not going to put up with it anymore. I believe Nigel Farage has announced his plans so far before an election because he knows any action can't wait until he's Prime Minister, says Kev. He's hoping Labour will copy his ideas now like they have others. And there's certainly no question that sometimes when Nigel Farage says something, everybody else jumps. And they all suddenly go, oh, we better react to this. And Keir Starmer's so useless as a Prime Minister and so, you know, bereft of ideas that if he thinks something might be popular, he will suddenly go for it. So he might end up actually agreeing with Nigel Farage and saying, well, maybe we should get ourselves out of the ECHR. After all, he's being told by his own backbenchers that the migration issue could ruin him and could make it impossible for them to win the next election. Even David Blunkett, the former Home Secretary under Tony Blair, has come out and said we should suspend our membership of the ECHR and we should get the hell out of the UN Convention on Refugees. Absolutely right. Mary in Kent says this. Morning, Mike. I agree with Nigel Farage. These are fighting-age men, and a lot of them, some of them, are predators. It's awful to say, but it's the truth. I was in a park the other day, and I saw 5 Eastern Europeans filming young girls sunbathing in the park. When I looked over at them, they stared back, and it was unnerving. I carried on walking, and when I had to pass them again, they pointed at me and started saying things. I quickly got in my car, and I won't go back again. You see, people shouldn't have to put up with that. You should not have to put up with any kind of harassment, any kind of, I don't know, leering, wolf whistling, any of that stuff. But this is where some of these people come from, where they think it's okay. We saw the story yesterday where it said that, you know, violence against women and girls on trains has now reached epidemic proportions. And nobody wanted to make the connection to the fact that actually it could be that an awful lot of the harassment is going on based upon the people who have come here from foreign lands who don't know how to treat women properly, right? And instead what you get is the lefties going, oh, it's all Andrew Tate's fault. because, you know, obviously he's influenced all the young men in this country to be sexist towards women. No, wrong, absolutely not true. The reason why women are being harassed on the streets of this country is nothing to do with Andrew Tate, nothing to do with British men, and it's everything to do with foreigners coming here who treat women like dirt, because that's what they think they can do. Let's not forget, what do they do in Afghanistan? They make women cover themselves up to the point where they can only have one eye looking out from a burqa, right? Let's see what they do in other countries like Eritrea. How do they treat women there? Do you think it's a progressive feminist nation? No, not really. What about Sudan? What about Morocco? What about Algeria? What about all of these places where these people come from? You know, Iran, Iraq. You know, in Iran, you get arrested and sometimes beaten to death if you show that you've got some nice hair. These are people who then come to Kensington in London and start harassing women and touching them up. There's something wrong, right? And let's admit it. Let's not pretend that it's all fine. Let's not go, oh yeah, but the Iranians are really great people. You know, let's come and open an Iranian restaurant and we can eat some Iranian food. Yeah, that's fine. Except they're going to intimidate and harass and possibly sexually assault women. We shouldn't be letting them in. It's as simple as that. Let's talk to Alex Wilson, Reform UK London Assembly member. Alex, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Great to be with you again.
Yeah, good to see you. A big morning for Nigel Farage, obviously in the papers today. They're all covering his speech yesterday and his pronouncements. Let's have a look at what some of them were. Here's what he says about what side you are on the whole subject of migration.
And what began as a protest of mothers and concerned citizens outside the Bell Hotel in Epping has now spread right across the country. And all of it really poses one big fundamental question. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts?
Well, quite. And he said this in the Telegraph piece that he wrote the other day, didn't he, Alex? He said basically, you know, Keir Starmer is kind of enslaved to this business of European courts and international law and all of the things that prevent Britain from doing what it should be doing, which is to keep these scumbags out of the country.
Absolutely, Mike. So yesterday was a huge event, big press conference, and the scale of it represents the scale of the problem that, as a country, we've been facing. We have always been a welcoming and tolerant country and helping people who are fleeing genuine war and persecution, but the scale of the crisis we have now in our immigration system, our asylum system, and quite frankly, the illegal boat crossings is the tip of the iceberg. Something needs to be done, something big, bold and effective, and the Conservative Party failed to do that when they were in government. They talked about Rwanda as a deterrent, but the scheme never got off the ground, and it basically didn't have any legs. The Labour government, Keir Starmer talks about smashing the gangs, but all he's doing is smashing the records. We had nearly 52,000 illegal boat crossings since he became Prime Minister. So a huge step change is necessary. That's what Nigel was announcing yesterday. And at the very, very core of everything that we will do, if we are fortunate enough to win that next general election, is establish that principle that if you enter this country illegally, you will not be able to stay. You will be detained, you will be deported, and you will be banned from ever trying to come back again. We've reached a stage where something of this magnitude is necessary. We shouldn't have had to do this. We should have had a much more managed and calm and system, but we've been overwhelmed, and that's why something on this scale is necessary. That's why Nigel announced it yesterday, and that's what we'll be campaigning for.
Well, I mean, you and I have spoken about this many times, Alex, even in London now, because it's taken a long time for it to kind of reach London. But the whole problem with these horrible, ghastly individuals who are coming here illegally is that they are now spilling over into every community in the country. And you're seeing, demonstrations going on all the way from, Newcastle down to Manchester, down to Leeds, down to Birmingham, down to Norfolk, down to London, down to Bournemouth. There are many, many of them going on. Nuneaton, I think, in the Midlands, also down in Kent as well. Every single sort of part of this nation is erupting with anger. But very, very well sort of policed anger, if you like, because they're not, you know, doing anything wrong. They're not breaking the law. They're having very peaceful demonstrations outside hotels. But they've had enough. People are saying enough is enough. You know, you've got, we've reached kind of, you know, what you call limit up on the numbers of people coming here from foreign countries. We don't know who they are. What we do know is that in almost every situation where they are, there is one of them, or two of them, or three of them, or maybe more, committing horrible sex crimes.
Yeah, and you can add to the list of that, you know, that long list of places you've just read out where, you know, people are fed up and are having these protests. You can add to that, you know, Tower Hamlets, which is, you know, one of the most you know, diverse boroughs in London, and even there, people are not happy with the, you know, the hotels, the Canary Wharf hotel. There've been protests there because people have had enough, and it's for two reasons. Firstly, because people are genuinely concerned about, you know, crime and safety and, you know, sexual offences, and it's the safety of our, you know, women and children in particular that people are terrified about. But also just the sheer cost, and, you know, it's these. Yeah, it's you and me, the English or British taxpayer, that's paying for all of this, and, you know, we're paying more tax for everything, and we're getting less and less in return, and we feel like, you know, we're at the back of the queue for everything, and it's just got to stop, and that's why people are not happy.
Yeah, and let's take London for an example. I mean, at the moment, all we know about is the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf, which is the focus of an awful lot of anger. I mean, is Sadiq Khan saying anything about that at all, or what's he doing?
Well, I asked a written question a little while ago, you know, to ask if he was concerned about, you know, potential links between these hotels and crime, and he brushed it off completely. I'll be asking more questions to try and find out exactly how many hotels there are, how many migrants are being held in them, because, you know, we have a right to know. People need to know what's going on in their community so that people can feel safe and you know, aren't.
Because I've been hearing on the grapevine, not far from me, there's a hotel in southeast London, relatively close to what you might call Deptford, and apparently there's people there who are saying that as of November, the hotel is no longer taking any more bookings. It's a relatively, you know, popular hotel, but it's not taking any more bookings because it's being taken over for asylum seekers. And this government keeps telling us that actually they're moving people out of hotels into HMOs, you know, private dwellings where they can live within communities, right, which is also a bad idea. But there's no information. You have to go and find it, don't you? Are you hearing about any more hotels in London being taken over?
Well, that's often the first way you hear about it, is when people aren't able to make bookings for, you know, regular use of hotels, or indeed having bookings, you know, pre-existing bookings cancelled. But no, we need to absolutely keep a very close eye on it, and but we need to be told. But if the government was serious about closing these hotels, they wouldn't be appealing the ruling from the High Court on the Epping Hotel, would they? You know, they've got no intention of doing this. They talk a good game, but as with every area of policy affecting this country over the last 14, 15 months since they've come into power, yeah, it's broken promises, it's meaningless words, and it's failure. And that's why something's got to change.
Yeah. Let's have a look at what one of the questions was to put to Nigel Farage. This is by Channel 4 News, because what we'll be talking about in the first hour of the show today is how ludicrous the sort of the mainstream media, and I hesitate to use that phrase because we are part of it as well, but the sort of the main channels, if you like, let's call it that, Channel 4 News, asking about the torture of deported migrants. Check it out.
There is a realistic possibility that if you go forward with this, there might be a case where someone arrives in the UK by a small boat, you send them back to the country from which they came, and they will be tortured or killed because of a decision that you've made. How does that sit with you?
Well, the alternative, of course, is to do nothing. I mean, that's the very clear alternative, is we just do nothing. We just allow this problem to magnify and grow. We cannot be responsible for all the sins that take place around the world. It's just literally impossible.
Yeah. It's literally impossible. And you know, Nigel quite right to answer the question that way. He spent an hour answering questions from the media, and almost all the questions from the media were in that same kind of vein. Oh, but shouldn't we be looking after them? Oh, but shouldn't we be making sure that they're not going to be harmed when they get sent back? No, I don't think we should. I don't think anybody who's listening to this show or watching this show today gives a stuff about these people.
Any government's first duty should be to protect, you know, the citizens of its own country, and that's what's always got to come first. Yeah. And that's what both the Conservatives and the Labour Party in government have failed to do. But ultimately, you know, these people are not going to be suffering war, persecution and torture in France. So if they're that worried, just stay in France. Yeah. Don't cross the channel, don't come on the boat.
And this is where I think
apply.
there might be a great success story here from Nigel Farage, because if they think that if they come to Britain they might get sent back and get tortured or killed, then maybe they won't come and they'll stay where they are, you know, and they can pollute France as much as they like.
Yeah, the deterrent is everything. Yeah, if this is put into place, it will very, very quickly have a huge impact on people coming across. You know, Starmer talks about smashing the gangs and the business model. The business model for the smuggling gangs only exists because they know that their clients, should they land here, will not be deported under this government and indeed under the previous government. Change the whole context in which the system is operating, and that whole calculation changes. It becomes a genuine deterrent, and the numbers will fall off a cliff. And within not very long at all, this will no longer be a serious problem in the same way as it is now, because if we have the leadership and the resolution to deal with this, to tackle it head on, that's how it will change.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question to you, Alex. What about the old Notting Hill Carnival? It turns out that in the fullness of time, we got all the details yesterday. There were 4 stabbings, as it turns out, although we are assured that they were not life-threatening, as that makes the BBC makes that okay. 528 arrests over the course of the 3 days of Notting Hill Carnival, which is not only a record, it's almost double what happened last year. The police are busy patting themselves on the back, congratulating themselves for saying that they managed to contain any serious violence because they arrested all the perpetrators. But, you know, surely to Christ, at some point somebody's going to go, do you know what? I think we should just do this in a different way.
Absolutely. I think we should be grateful that nobody was killed this year, unlike last year where 2 people sadly were killed, lost their lives at this event. But you're right, the number of arrests was significantly up on last year, and that's before you even take into account the 100 or so preemptive arrests that happened before we even got to the bank holiday weekend. And I give credit to the Met where it's due. If they're taking action, getting weapons off the streets, they were using live facial recognition technology for the first time this year, and I believe somewhere in the region of about 1/8 of the arrests that were conducted over the weekend were on the back of using that technology, and I think that's great. In those specific circumstances, use this if we can help to get on top of crime. But the event itself has definitely outgrown the environment in which it operates. It's in many ways a victim of its own success. And every year we have this kind of treading on eggshells. Is there going to be a major crushing incident that could cause absolute carnage? And every year we kind of breathe a sigh of relief that it doesn't happen. But every year we think, well, next year
we
it
shouldn't
could
have to do that,
possibly
should we?
So the answer has got to be to move it to somewhere like Hyde Park, where it can be carefully managed, ticketed, looked after properly, and everyone can still come out, have a lovely time and enjoy themselves if that's what they want to do, but in a much more safe and secure way, so that we don't have this constant worry that it will be a hotbed of criminality or indeed a Hillsborough type crushing incident. And ultimately, all of us involved in politics in London, our priority should be about keeping Londoners safe. And the way that this event carries on year in its current format is not helping that in any way, shape or form.
No, exactly right. Good to talk to you, Alex. Thank you very much indeed. Alex Wilson there, Reform UK's London Assembly member, fighting the good fight for reform and for all the people of this nation, certainly this capital city, who would like to see things done slightly differently, not the way that Sadiq Khan thinks they should be done. Let's get a voice note from James.
Morning, Mike. It's James from Blackburn. Great outburst, by the way. I loved that. I mean, I think I got bleeped on the radio yesterday, but Mike Graham, he does what he wants. That's great. Anyway, Rachel had a new video. I quite like that little tune in it. My plan for change. Shaking hands with people with no teeth. Yeah, Rich, it's going very well, isn't it? The IMF, they're not going to give you any money either because we're knackered. Have a good day, Mike. Brilliant.
It's pathetic, isn't it? What do they think we are? I mean, honestly, Ofgem basically raising their energy price cap for October by 2%, which I think basically means that the cap for your energy bill for the year is going to be £1,755. They think that's some kind of a triumph. It's really not. That's a lot of money. That's, £100 a month is 1,200 quid, right? So we're talking about what? Another £150 a month? Which is supposedly the cap. Some people are paying a lot more than that. I'd love to hear what your experiences are with your energy bills, because they are ripping us off to a massive extent, right? I moved my supplier quite some time ago, just because I couldn't be bothered with the fact they kept harassing me to put in a smart meter. And the price came down a bit, but now it's starting to edge up and up and up and up. It's a bit like broadband, you know, you change it over, you get a good deal for a while, and then it goes up and up and up and up until you threaten to leave, and then suddenly it goes down, you know, as if they don't actually know what they're charging you until you decide that you actually want to do a bit of a revolution. You know, we are being run by pygmies, ladies and gentlemen, complete idiots, morons, who just keep taking and taking and taking, and they send you a bill in the hopes you'll pay it. And if you don't pay it, they'll punish you and take you to court. It's brilliant, isn't it? What a great country to live in. 7:24.
I don't think that we're going to see people sent back to be tortured and executed and jailed for daring to leave their countries. I think that in the end, we won't be sending people back to the Taliban in Afghanistan. We'll be sending them to other places, or indeed doing what I suggest and what Farage and others have suggested, which is to deter them in the first place. And one of the ideas that has been raised, and I can't understand why it hasn't been introduced, is to use drones to identify the people in the boats who are actually at the tiller.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 27 minutes past 7. I don't know where the time's going. I'll tell you what, we are in an absolute incredible sort of place at the moment because people are feeling a bit angry and people are absolutely wanting to express themselves. And I'm one of them, of course. And as I said, there's a clip going out at the moment from me, which I think is probably going to do rather well, where I've had a bit of a go at Torsten Bell. Matt and Chris have got something to say about him as well. Have a listen.
Morning, Mike. Brilliantly conveying the way the nation feels, and I honestly don't blame you for the profanity. Yeah, keep up the good work, and you're just saying what everyone feels. Well done.
Mike Graham, what an absolute legend. Saying what everybody else wants to say, but having the balls to say it. What a man. Cheers, mate.
Listen, this is what we do here at Talk. You know, we tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We don't hold back because I can't help it. Mike says, Neil in Surrey, I get your frustration. It really does make you wonder how these morons ended up in the positions they have. They're destroying what was once a great country, zero growth, massive immigration, crime through the roof, NHS that's barely functioning, and now a political Stasi-style police force. Great show. Well, this is the thing. And, you know, you get people like Theo, bless him, because he has to work in the Westminster bubble, and he has to kind of, you know, go along with what it is that they tell him every day, and he has to sort of keep playing nice, otherwise they won't let him back into the little club. But, you know, let's face it, these people are not clever. You know, we keep getting told, people like Torsten Bell, oh, he's very clever, very intelligent man, very, he went to Oxford, he's got a PPE, he's a first-class honours degree, blah-de-blah-de-blah. These people are absolute and utter twits. I'm not going to say the other word. I've learnt my lesson. I've been told off. I'm not going to say it. The point is that these people should not be deified. They should not be looked up to. They should not be assumed to be better than we are, because that's what they think they are. They actually think they're better than we are. They think they're cleverer than we are. You know, we just work around like, you know, grubs in the dust. We're just sort of worker bees, and they're the queen bee. And they go, yeah, but you're just a working person. What do you know? Working people. You know, you don't know anything. You know, just do what you're told, pay your taxes, and we'll tell you what we're going to do with the money. Let's talk to Justin Urquhart-Stewart, because it turns out that Ofgem this morning, breaking news, have raised the energy price cap, which means energy prices are going up, which means everything else is going to go up, which means inflation is going to go up. It means that your weekly shop is going to be more expensive. It means every time you go down the pub, it's going to be more expensive. Every time you look around to buy anything, it's going to be more expensive. So once again, Rachel Reeves, or Richard III, as we like to call her, has completely made a complete wreck of the economy. How is it possible that she's even still in the job? Justin, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Excellent programme, very funny.
I mean, I'm sorry, I can't say anything positive about this economy. I can't say anything positive about Rachel Reeves. What happened to Miliband and his promise that we were going to get 300 quid off our energy bills? Let's have a look at what he said, shall we?
This was based on independent modelling, which is what we used in the election, that said that bills would be up to £300 lower in a clean power system. And what I was going to say, Naga, this is really, really important, is we now have the National Energy System Operator, the independent body that has looked at these plans and says it's achievable, which is really important. It gives us energy security, it will lower the cost of electricity, and it can lead to lower bills.
It can lead to... Why is he wearing a high-vis vest? So that you can see him in the dark, you know, when you haven't got any power, because it's all been cut off because you can't afford it anymore. How about Keir Starmer? Maybe he's got an idea of whether the energy bills are going down.
Now, clean British power is, you know, renewables, which is about a third of the price of fossil fuels at the moment, and that ought to bring down the household bills by about £400 for each bill, but that's a permanent drop. This is the big difference, I think.
I mean, are these people just inveterate liars? Are they stupid? Do they don't know what the actual reality is? Prices are going up, right?
And prices are going up, and it's going to be the effect of the primary driver of our economy, known as, well, you and me, the consumer. 65% of our economy is based on service economy, primarily the consumer economy. So if I'm having to pay out more, we're having to pay out more for our electricity, that's going to directly, negatively impact on it. And fundamentally, it's not just a matter of the price cap and things like that. The actual design of our power system, and the bit that no one ever talks about, is the national grid, which hasn't been invested in properly for years. So we are producing more power. We're even producing actually quite cost-effective power, some of the wind power is, but we can't get it from now out of the North Sea, or wherever it happens to be, down to the key areas of use further down in England, because the grid can't take it. So we've actually got a system where we've managed to make ourselves 20% more expensive than Europe in terms of running businesses. So it's hardly surprising people like British Steel and similar say, well, why should we set up business here when the fundamental cost of starting your business means I'm already down minus 20%. I could go anywhere else, right, and I'll get an extra bonus.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Because everything everything is affected by the price of energy, and everything in terms of inflation is affected by the price of energy. So this will presumably only lead to more inflation. We saw yesterday that food inflation was up to 4.2%, up on the other 4% that happened in July. So the month of August it's gone up again. So effectively it's doubled, and people know that they're paying at least 10% to 20% more for everything they buy in the shops, and the energy price is going to hike all of that even more, isn't it?
It is indeed. Now, look at those things on food, for example. Because we're producing less, we're having to import more, and therefore that's costing us more because of what's been happening with the currency. But of course, in the UK, you can add the issue of a climate. Unless, of course, we're all going to start eating strawberries the entire time, we're going to find ourselves somewhat stuck. So again, fundamental infrastructure, we are producing the right things in the right way. So whether it's power or whether it's food, these are all interconnected. Where is the plan, as opposed to the knee-jerk reaction, we'll make this cheaper, as you say, stand in a high-vis jacket with a hard hat on, and you're obviously doing something which is standing strong for the economy. No, there are key things that could be done straight away which do not incur extra government expenditure. Enterprise investment schemes and similar elements which give people tax incentives to pump money into the economy. We've got no shortage of money in this country, but someone's been mucking around with the plumbing. So we need to get the money from the savers and the investors actually through to businesses, particularly smaller company and businesses who are, of course, the largest employer in this country, and that's where our future lies.
Well, maybe we should check in with the head of GB Energy, you know, the man who's been put in charge of basically harnessing the world's energy into Britain, a man by the name of Jürgen Meyer. I don't know if you've come across this guy before, but he runs GB Energy. Basically the only employee. I think they've hired one other person, and it's supposed to be the future. It's supposed to be the answer to everything. Have a look.
It will help bring energy prices down.
When?
Well, it's a matter for government and policy to decide.
But as the boss of this, and as someone who is driving forward the ambition of the government, you surely have an idea in your head of when that central pledge to the people of reducing their bills by £300 will come into action.
It is not in the remit of Great British Energy to work out exactly how that energy costing gets through to the consumer.
So apparently it's not in the remit of Great British Energy as to how much energy costs. What is their remit exactly?
Well, what they should be doing is laying out a plan. That's what they're there to do, to actually say, right, this is how we develop our energy, whether you like green or not. It's a matter of having a blend of all these things. We've just been incredibly slow to do it, and also have and it keeps on coming up, that awful phrase, joined up thinking, but it really is. If you were running a household, you have to make sure you can forward your power. You actually want telephone systems to work. It's not about saying, well, I think we'll do without electricity this month, we'll just focus on gas. It's not going to work like that.
I think maybe they hook Jürgen up to the mains, and they can maybe power the sort of half the grid off of the oil that he's got in his hair.
Well, actually, when you look at a shirt like that, I'm afraid that's socially embarrassing. You can't have that. You can't read anything like that.
No.
Mind you, I'm no model for it, but nonetheless.
No. I mean, absolutely shocking stuff. Absolutely brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Justin Urquhart-Stewart there, a proper economist who may or may not have gone to the London School of Economics to study economics like Rachel Reeves did, because she's also an economist who works at the Bank of England as an economist. I'll tell you what, we found a great clip. This is Torsten Bell talking on Newsnight. This is a guy that has just been promoted in the Treasury, right, in the department underneath Rachel Reeves. She thinks this guy's a genius. Make your own mind up. Here he is.
For those who can't, they'll be living on about 70 quid.
We are not going to write off 21-year-olds as unable to work.
For those who can't, they'll be living on about £70 a week. Could you live on 70 quid a week?
Absolutely not.
So why do you expect young people to?
We won't. We provide housing benefit as well, and we'll provide personal independence payments.
This is cash in their pocket. This 70
quid
cash a week.
So are the things I just mentioned to you. So are the things I just mentioned to you. That's how the benefit system works. If people need help with their rent, they receive that as well. If they need support with a disability, personal independence payments is there for that as well.
So to buy food, to pay bills,
yes,
70 quid a week. You've just told me you couldn't live on that.
Well, no, I have a mortgage to pay because of the current situation.
Oh, you've got a mortgage to pay because of the current situation. That's a complete plank. We have to put it on Plank of the Week, and we're going to film it later on today. You know, these people are so utterly ridiculous, right? They think that they know better than we do how the world works. They don't, because they've never done a real job. They've never actually gone out into the real world. All they've ever done is sucked on the public sector teat. and they don't know what it's like to actually try and find a real job. They don't know what it's like to scramble around. You know, you might think that I've had a great life all of my life and I've never been poor. I've been poor. You know, most people that I know have been poor because they haven't been born with a silver spoon in their mouths. Torsten Bell. How can you be called Torsten and even have a view on reality? You complete and utter moron. 7:38.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 7:41 very nearly. This from Jonathan in Australia. He says, loving the show this afternoon. In Australia, I'm glad I'm listening through my headphones, even though the kids will be laughing as much as me. I love the passion, love the show, brilliant. Well, you know, sometimes you just have to, get stuck in. I've been watching Talk for a long time, says Brian. I especially love your slot, but I've been waiting for something you say that I disagree with. It looks like it's never going to happen. Keep up the great work, Brian in Worthing. Well, coming up a little bit later on in the show, we're going to be talking to Jeremy Kyle, because he's going to be coming on to help me make a big announcement of something that's coming up in the near future that the two of us are getting involved in. One from Simon in Norwich. I love it when you get angry. It keeps me sane and cures my road rage while I'm out taxi driving, wondering why the heck I'm still working and paying my taxes. Keep it up. People are so fed up. Sort of fed up to the back teeth of all of this crap that we're having to put up with, right? We're going to talk now to LaDonna Harvey from Arizona. She's at KTAR in Phoenix now, Arizona Morning News. Donald Trump's been talking about what happens to people who burn the flag. You know, we've been having this massive debate in this country about whether you can put flags up, whether the Highways Agency is going to take them down, whether Birmingham Council is going to take them down. You go, oh, health and safety, you can't put a flag up, an England flag, a British flag, right? Here's what Trump says if you try and burn the American flag.
Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You could do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, You get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they used that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement.
Incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record.
Seems pretty straightforward. LaDonna, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
We've sort of entered a different world now, haven't we? Because there was a time when people used to act normally, and if you wanted to be a bit sort of reckless and a little bit kind of edgy, you'd burn an American flag and go, you know, I don't like what America stands for. But now it's become so divisive, this whole flag situation, whether you've got a Palestinian flag or a bloody Israeli flag or a US flag. So I think he's actually right to do this. I don't know about you.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. There are a lot of conservatives who find themselves having to go against him, and some for the first time. The Supreme Court ruled back in, I want to say it was the 80s, it might have been the 90s, that it's free expression. You can burn a flag, as distasteful as many people may find it. I find it distasteful. I wouldn't do it.
No.
But, you know, you can burn it. It's a part of your free speech. And I think this one's going to be difficult for him to defend. He's telling the Attorney General to go after them. And I don't think it's a case that he can win. And that's, to me, you know, don't waste government time.
No, I get
don't
that.
do it.
I get that. But at the same time, I think the problem is that we've moved on from, like you say, I mean, I'm old enough, I'm afraid, to remember the Vietnam War and people who used to burn the American flag then, and it was a legitimate protest against government policy, sending, you know, poor kids to fight and die in a place that was very far away that actually didn't really mean anything. And I get that. But nowadays, it's kind of it feels like it's a different thing that's going on.
And, you know, I think people have been protesting by flag burning for forever.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm more offended when I see people who are protesting in America carrying another nation's flag. That bothers me. I'm not bothered by American flag burning on that level. It's something that, again, it's distasteful. I wouldn't do it. I have no desire to do it. But if you want to do it, it's your perfect right to express that you're absolutely livid over. Pick your favorite thing that Trump did to make you mad today, because that's essentially what it is. It's, you know, to me, it's just a hissy fit.
But that's the thing, you know, burn the flag because you don't think America should be involved in a foreign war, you know, thousands of miles away, which is killing 53,000 people who probably didn't need to lose their lives. You know, that's fair enough. But don't burn the bleeding flag because you don't like Trump's policy on immigration.
Right. That's the thing. It's, you know, but we're all hysterical now. Everything is an over-the-top protest over, you know, a guy. Do I love him? No. Do I hate him? No. I don't care about him because he's just a politician.
Well, you know, listen, I take the same view as you. At the end of the day, you're not slavishly loving any politician because it's a very unhealthy position to be in. I quite admire some of the things he's doing, but you know, I'm not. He's not my favourite person or my least favourite person. He's a politician, so you know, don't invest your life in it. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, no. You know, every politician, and even though Trump is a little bit different in that he hasn't been in politics all of his life, most of these guys, you know, you take Gavin Newsom, he's been grooming himself to be president since, I don't know, I think he was 3. You know, he's been working on that smile and that hair. But politicians basically, you know, you have to go for what their policy is. I don't love politicians. I am hoping that all politicians can be manipulated by the numbers, by us, the people, to do the right thing. And they're not going to do it because it's the right thing. They're going to do it because there's pressure on them to do the right thing. And that's all politicians, including Trump. Every stinking one of them.
Yeah. No, I get that. But listen, LaDonna, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Arizona Morning News, KTAR in Phoenix. But he's got at least the attitude that one would hope that the leader of a nation would have, which is that he thinks the flag is great. I mean, Keir Starmer has actually come out and said before all the flag waving protests went on, that actually people should be proud to wave the Union Jack around and wave the flag of St George. He hasn't come out and said it much lately, because when people like Birmingham Council and Tower Hamlets Council say they're going to take flags down on the basis that, you know, it's a health and safety issue, people are getting very worked up. I think there's something like 75,000 flags that have now been erected around Britain. And it'd be nice to come out and hear Keir Starmer saying that it's now going to be illegal for somebody to take a flag down. You know, why not actually get behind the people who want to be proud of their country? What's wrong with that exactly? 0344 499 1000. Kinsey Schofield is going to come up very shortly. We'll talk to her about Meghan and her latest ridiculousness. And also, Taylor Swift is on the front page of The Sun this morning, and many other papers as well. She's announced her engagement to Travis Kelce, the football player. Let's get a voice note from Liam.
Morning, Mike. Liam from Kent. Back after a couple of weeks on holiday in Somerset, but yeah, reality's back in. But anyway, Nigel Farage, I really hope he comes through and does what he says he can do. All these lefties, if he gets into power, what are they all going to do then when he starts actually doing it and things start working out better? What are they going to do then? Slate him for doing the right thing? Idiots, the lot of them, absolute idiots. But yeah, great show, Mike. Take it easy.
Yeah, of course, the lefties are going to go, how dare you? What do you mean we're going to block these illegal immigrants coming into the country and we're going to detain them and deport them? Why would we do that? Surely we should let them all in. We don't care if they're rapists or, you know, war criminals or people that have been chopping people's arms off in the middle of the Independent Republic of Congo or whatever it is. Democratic Republic of Congo. No, just let them all come and, you know, work in libraries in, you know, Barnsley. No. You know, Nigel Farage has got it right. He's the only politician so far in my lifetime who has actually spoken for the people and literally listened to the people and is promising to do the things that the people want. That's why he's going to be the next Prime Minister of this great nation of ours. It's coming up to nearly 10 minutes to 8. Kinsey Schofield coming next.
This morning was the most radical immigration policy in British history, and that will set the debate now for weeks and months and possibly years to come. I'm pretty immersed in this stuff. I know how radical reform wants to be. I was really impressed by just how far he is pledging to go. I mean, what he's talking about here deporting hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants is a massive undertaking.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. We are, of course, the home of common sense and world headquarters of it, no doubt. Ofgem raising their energy price cap for October by 2%, which means that your energy bills are going to go up once again, despite what they were promised by the government. £1,755 per year is going to be the average. This from Sue in Lancashire. Good morning, Mike. You are spot on. They are bloody clueless and need to get out. No wonder people like us swear. I love watching you in the morning. Carry on doing what you're doing, giving us hope and humour. Thank you. And Steve says, when a professional broadcaster of decades' experience loses it and uses the same words as his viewers and listeners to describe the traitorous, incompetent Labour show, it shows just how bad things are. Keep going, keep cursing and speak for us all. Yes, absolutely right. I must apologise for my behaviour slightly earlier on this morning when I was, I don't know, slightly out of control. Kinsey Schofield is here, and I would say the same to her. Kinsey, very good morning to you.
Oh, I love it when you're sassy. Don't apologize to me.
Yeah, because there are so many things that just wind me up, you know. Every now and again I just have to, you know, lose the plot and say a few swear words and get told off by my producer, who has to keep me in line. But let's talk...
I totally get it. I would love to move to your country legally, and I watch all the people that move to your country illegally wondering, why do I have to jump through all the hoops? I get why are upset.
Well, listen, my first wife was American, and we had to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. I was asked many times by the Home Office, is this a marriage of convenience? And I went, you should really come and spend some time with us and find out that it's very much not a convenient marriage at all. It's quite inconvenient in many ways. But I'd be very willing to sponsor you as my next wife if you want, Kinsey.
Well, you know, Travis Kelce's now off the market, so...
Yeah, I mean, let's see what Donald Trump had to say about Taylor Swift's engagement, shall we?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, the biggest pop culture news of the year broke while we were in this cabinet meeting. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged, and the world wants your reaction, sir.
Well, I wish him a lot of luck.
Thank you.
I think he's a great player. I think he's a great guy, and I think that she's a terrific person. So I wish them a lot of luck.
Which is a lot nicer than what he said about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Do you remember when he was like, he's got enough problems with that woman of his, right?
Yes, but I've followed him on Truth Social long enough to remember I hate Taylor Swift in all caps. So I do like the change in tone for President Trump. I do like that he's coming around. He realizes this is a time of celebration, and he didn't want to bring that down. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Well, it shows that he's listening to The Room once in a while, isn't it? Because, you know, I don't understand why people hate Taylor Swift. I think she's brilliant. I think her music's fantastic. I think she's an incredibly beautiful woman. And, you know, why would you in any way not like her?
Well, if you're Meghan Markle, you probably don't like her because she stole your thunder a couple of times in the last few weeks. When Meghan dropped the trailer for With Love, Meghan 2, and it was supposed to be a big surprise that was coming out, Taylor sat down and did a podcast around the same time with Travis Kelce, which broke YouTube records. Right. So many watched it live. So many people watched it after the fact. And there were reports that Meghan was frustrated about that. So here comes the actual premiere of With Love, Meghan season 2, along with a new Bloomberg interview. And Taylor, again, breaks the internet. And Taylor's she's such a true star that she can shut off her comments.
Yeah.
And all of the celebrities that love her find a way to congratulate her through their own social media channels. Yeah, it's like, you're right. I mean, there is a group of vocal people that dislike her, but for the most part, People celebrate her
But
wins.
they just look stupid, you know, because, I mean, she makes the front pages here in London. Obviously, it's a wipeout on the front page of The Sun, which is fantastic, in which the headline says, look what you made me do, which for those of us, or actually, look what you made me I do, for those of us who know some of the songs, is great. But also, she's on the front page of The Guardian, she's on the front page of The Times, she's on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, for heaven's sake. I mean, that's how much she cuts through, you know, the different media in this country, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a self-made young woman, you know, she started at a very young age, had a lot of discipline, and honestly, she's a poet. I love listening to the lyrics of her songs. Even if I don't like the song, I typically love the lyrics to her songs. So I'm happy for her. And she proves that you can have it all. I mean, at least she gives us a little bit of faith in that department. We'll have to see if there's a happily ever after.
But the thing is, she's one of those, also one of those superstars for whom we will follow all the way through. You know, when they get married, we'll do the wedding, and then we'll do the honeymoon, and then we'll do the breakup if it happens. It'll all be terribly tragic.
We'll definitely do the babies. I think babies are on the way for sure.
Yeah, there'll be babies. There'll be, you know, much better out. I mean, I hope she doesn't go the way of Adele, when Adele sort of found happiness and decided that she was no longer miserable, and her songs suddenly just got really bad. Because it was
I think that was when Adele found weight loss.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Well, you know, my theory about Adele is that that's not actually her, and there's there's like a picture of Dorian Gray. There's a large fat woman somewhere in a basement in LA who's actually Adele, and they've sent out this, you know, slimmer model. But anyway, that's probably just my bizarre world that I live in. But let's talk about the new Meghan on the circuit thing. Here's what she's talking about in her new show about having to wear pantyhose, nude tights in the royal family.
I'm just being myself. So I think probably it was different several years ago where I couldn't be as vocal and I had to wear nude pantyhose all the time. Let's be honest, that was not very myself. I hadn't seen pantyhose since movies in the 80s when they came in the little egg. That felt a little bit inauthentic, but that's a silly example. But it is an example of when you're able to dress the way you want to dress and you're able to say the things that are true and you're able to show up in a space really organically and authentically. That's being comfortable in your own skin. And that's, of course, had different chapters in my life. But right now, no, I don't feel that I need to prove anything.
Why does she keep trying to prove anything then?
Yeah, and why? I love how she's complaining about how someone else dressed her back in the day. And it's like wearing a Burning Man tent right now. Like, I'd prefer everything else you wore than what I'm witnessing right now. And Mike, the pantyhose thing is a lie. I went back and tracked all of the times she broke protocol by not wearing pantyhose when she went to Hamilton in London in 2018. I mean, there is a long list of times where she did not wear pantyhose. So don't complain about having to wear pantyhose when you didn't.
Right.
You didn't do it.
But also, it's such a ridiculous thing to complain about. You know?
Exactly. But, you know, that was just her way of saying that she felt constrained. She felt like she was in a straitjacket while she was a working member of the British royal family. You know what? Blink and you'll miss her when it comes to the history books. I think she was a working royal for 17 months. Right. You know, like, stop talking about this time in your life if you were really as thrilled with your current situation as you try to prove that you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like somebody who worked as a waitress in the White House and went, yeah, the time when I was with the president, you know, it was really, really tough. You know, it's ridiculous. Anyway, listen, Kinsey, we're out of time, I'm afraid. My offer remains open if you want to emigrate to this country, but we'll talk about it later. This is, of course, the home of common sense. 1 minute past 8, Kinsey Schofield. The news is coming next. We're slightly late to it, but we'll be back after the news with loads more from Baroness Claire Fox. I'm Mike Graham.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that
shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to 5 minutes past 8. It is, of course, Wednesday the 27th of August. I'm here for another couple of days and I'm away. And Jeremy Kyle is going to be sitting in for me, you might be pleased to know, which will be an absolute pleasure for you and indeed for him. And we've got a big announcement to make, which we're going to make a little bit later on, maybe in the next hour. We're going to be announcing something that we're doing together, which is going to absolutely knock your socks off. Coming up, we've got breaking news, of course, this morning. Ofgem raising the energy price cap for October by 2%, which means basically the cap is going to sit at £1,755 for the year, which is not entirely a small amount of money, and also not entirely what we've been promised by this useless, hopeless Labour government, who keep telling us that they're going to be saving us 300 quid. Every single time Ed Miliband turns around, he talks about independent modelling, which is going to save us all a load of money. Well, it isn't going to save us a load of money because it simply has not done so over the course of the year that they've been in power. Yesterday, Nigel Farage set the cat amongst the pigeons. He's on the front pages this morning, of course, along with Taylor Swift, who seems to have completely dominated the headlines. One of the reasons that Nigel Farage is on the front pages, though, is that he has come out with a blueprint for getting rid of all the illegal migrants in this country. To wit, he wants to deport hundreds of thousands of people. He wants to do away with our slavish resilience with the ECHR. He wants to get rid of our conversations with the UN Refugee Council. He wants to get rid of any convention that we have internationally. He says Keir Starmer is too loyal to international courts and we should be looking after our own people. And even the Taliban agree with him. Apparently they came out yesterday afternoon and said that they would do a deal with Nigel Farage on returning people to Afghanistan. On the front page of the Times, we've got a story that says plans for French police to intercept migrant boats at sea for the first time are in jeopardy because of the possible collapse of the French government. And that, of course, is Keir Starmer's best mate, Emmanuel Macron. On front page of The Guardian, you would not be surprised to see Farage accused of ugly populism over plans for mass deportations. Yeah, accused by a bunch of lefty tossers, frankly, who don't think it's a good idea to actually get rid of people who are illegal coming here who we don't know. They think it's a good idea to welcome them in and have them walking around the place molesting our children and molesting our women. Front page of the Daily Mail actually puts it very well. Finally, a politician who gets it, they say. Nigel Farage yesterday vowed to introduce US-style raids to track down illegal immigrants living in Britain. We'll be speaking, of course, about this all the way through the show. We'll be talking to people from Reform. Baroness Claire Fox is here, Director of the Academy of Ideas as well. And we've got so many great messages coming in. I lost the plot a little bit earlier on about Torsten Bell, a man who has been hired by Rachel Reeves and promoted by Rachel Reeves as some kind of economic advisor. This is a bloke who came up with the Ed Stone for Ed Miliband, right? An absolute and utter plonker. 0344 499 1000 is the number. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Apparently I've got to apologise for saying tossers as well. I didn't know that was a bad thing to say. I did it on Plank of the Week the other day and I didn't have to apologise for that. Anyway, sorry, I'm putting my producer in the hot seat this morning. I don't care at this point. I literally don't care. This from Michael in Cheshire. He says, walking my dog in total hysterics. I feel it, Mike. I feel the frustration you're feeling. Don't ever mince your words. Say it as it is. Great show. Susan says, plot with Sue from Essex. Please be careful. I would hate to see you getting taken off the air. Perhaps Ofcom should widen the goalposts as to what you can say. Well, they've actually got a list of words that you can say. Some of them are more damaging than others. And I haven't even started on that. I mean, if you look through the list, there's a whole load of words that you can't say that have some kind of meaning that is you know, upsetting to people, apparently. I'll tell you what's upsetting to people is not the words that are going on in this country. It's the behaviour of certain illegal migrants who are walking around raping children, you know, trying to abduct them, trying to molest women, sexually assault them, because they think that they didn't get told when they came from the goat-herding capital of the Middle East that that wasn't the way to behave in front of women. You know, that's upsetting. You know, if I'm going to call them names, that's my prerogative, I would say. What I'm not doing is sitting in this studio molesting women. But these people are, and I'm getting pretty upset about it, frankly. Let's get a voice note from Sarah.
Good morning, Mike. It's Sarah from Croydon in Surrey. I just want to say I love watching you and Theo every Wednesday. I look forward to it. He's so calm and measured, and you are just so explosive, and you work so well together. And I love watching you two. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say Nigel smashed it yesterday. It was brilliant. I watched the whole thing, and yeah, he's absolutely on the money. And as a side note, I get emails from the Conservatives. I'm not a member, I'm a Reform UK member, but I still get the Conservative emails. And I got an email from Kemi yesterday saying about the Epping Forest Hotel and how other councils should follow suit, and isn't it a win? Kemi, you're a week too late, mate. Sorry, you've missed the boat on that one, literally. Anyway, thanks very much.
Sarah, great. Absolutely brilliant message. Thank you very much indeed. I think that's the trouble. Kemi Badenoch, you know, came out yesterday and tried to convince us all that she had the ideas before Nigel Farage did and that he's just stolen them from her. But the trouble is that she hasn't actually followed through with it. And the Conservative government came out, Conservative opposition, I should say, came out 2 days ago and said, oh, yeah, we're going to be unveiling some more plans in the coming weeks. Well, you know, they haven't got the coming weeks. You know, we're entering September. It's going to be conference season. Reforms conference is, I think, the week after this. So when I get back from when I've been away, I'm going on holiday for a couple of days. That's when the Reform conference starts, right? And then you've got the Conservative Party conference, you've got the Labour Party conference, you've got Lib Dems, you've got the Greens, you've got the SNP. You know, they'll all be having their conferences, and the Tories seem to think that it's a good idea to wait until their conference to actually get everything sorted out. Well, no, it's too late for that. Here's one from Steve in Wales. He said, fantastic to see the Deporter-in-Chief, Nigel Farage, prioritising the safety and well-being of the British people before the illegals. I couldn't care less if some illegals get their tummies tickled when they're sent back home. Well, this is the thing. you know, a lot of these lefties are going, oh, you have to deal with the Taliban. Blimey, that's a bit difficult. Theo, poor Theo, says Dave Manson. Mike, nearly crashed the car on the way to work there, thanks to your outburst. Well, I'm sorry about that. Listen, there's a lot to be frustrated about. Let's talk to Claire Fox, Baroness Claire Fox from the Academy of Ideas. Claire, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Isn't it great to see a politician actually saying something that the people can register with and the people can kind of identify with? Because, you know, whatever you say about Nigel Farage, he speaks their language.
I think it was the clarity with which he spoke and the unapologetic nature of it that has really appealed to people. And a lot of your listeners and viewers are expressing that, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think the key message was, whose side are you on? And in some ways, this press conference yesterday has now set the tone. It's not as though, to be fair, it's not as though Reform have kind of come up with anything new. What they've done is they've distilled the frustrations of millions of people who've been saying this for a long, long time, you know, many years. And what they've done is they've basically taken all of those concerns and come up with a coherent, unapologetic policy statement about what they're going to do. And people actually believe that they might do it. And the problem for, you just mentioned Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives, is that everything they sound as though they're kind of running to catch up.
Yeah.
And the Labour government are obviously nowhere to be seen in this particular race. And all of their policies just feel dated, tired, or, in terms of the whose side you're on, they're on the wrong side.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the problem. The difficulty is, isn't it, that because nobody really will grasp this nettle by the horns, to mix a load of metaphors up, you know, Nigel Farage has suddenly walked into the melee and just gone, here's what we're going to do, and everybody's going, well, that sounds great. That's absolutely fine. The only people who are objecting to it, people like John McDonnell, you know, the former Shadow Chancellor, who was in many ways a great supporter of the IRA, and he's come out and gone, oh, this is not the country we want to be in, this is not, you know, we're rejecting children. We're not rejecting children, we're rejecting people coming here to take advantage of everything that's been going on.
Well, yeah, except that, I mean, I think the biggest barrier, I mean, John McDonnell never takes any notice of him these days, but I do think that, you know, when Keir Starmer has made the mistake, I think, of just coming up and absolutely categorically saying, I am a human rights lawyer and I stick with the European Court of Human Rights and we will not leave, and so on and so forth, he's actually genuinely setting up a battle in terms of that discussion about whose side are you on, that I don't think Labour can win. And I think the fact that David Blunkett, of all people, has already spoken out and said, look, we've got to look at this, means that, and you know, it's been quite clear that maybe there should be a suspension of things like the 1951 Refugee Convention, of all of these international laws that consistently been used by politicians as an excuse for why they can't act. I mean, they will say all the time in Parliament, in the Lords, you know, you say, why don't we do this? And they say, well, that would be in breach of international law. That phrase is used as a way of closing down the possibility of any kind of sovereign action by a UK Parliament. But we know that they hide behind it. You know, it suits them to say there's this immovable block here that we can't get past. And what Farage has done, which is a very sensible way of cutting through this, is say, if those international laws and agreements get in the way of us doing what we need to do, we will remove them. Straightforward.
Yeah.
And that is what a sovereign country would do and could do. And in fact, many European countries are actually doing it already. They are not being held back in quite the same way that the UK government's craven kind of, oh no, we've got to look at the human rights legislation and see whether we're upsetting it, how it's being used to stop. Even when they pass laws, they then say, well, we can't enact them because et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, at the end of the day, the problem really for the kind of the human rights brigade is that they're sort of losing the room, aren't they? They haven't got the same sort of clout as they used to have. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, Nigel Farage would have been beaten down. They tried. I mean, the media tried their best to sort of go, well, surely you'd be upset if there were people tortured and killed if they went back to Afghanistan. And he can now, because the public space has changed so much, that he can now say, well, to be honest, we can't actually solve the world's problems. We can't do anything about that. You know, all we know is that we don't want Afghanistan refugees here going around molesting children and molesting teenagers and molesting women. You know, so actually, frankly, if they get sent back to Afghanistan, we don't really care what happens to them.
Well, I mean, the thing that drives me mad about the Afghan discussion is a few things. I mean, first of all, we just found out, you know, only relatively recently, that because of the actions of you know, people associated with the British government, and that actually lots of Afghans were put on, their lives were put under jeopardy because of a huge data breach where they leaked a load of names.
Yeah.
So that means that those people's lives were in jeopardy, nothing to do with their immigration policies. No. We then found out that secretly they brought in, and are still bringing in, many people from Afghanistan who were not the translators who helped the British Army that people keep talking about, were not the women who are in jeopardy from the terrors of the Taliban, but just people who were on a list that Britain was responsible for leaking. And then they have the kind of gall to say, we are the people who care about ordinary Afghan people.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And it's, as it happens, one of the things that I was impressed about in relation to the Reform conference yesterday was that Zia Youssef, for example, when asked about, well, would you be returning women to Afghanistan to suffer the tortures? He didn't just say, I don't care. He said, well, of course, you might look at certain cases, right? You know, we're working out the details as we speak. But it is disingenuous for people to say or to suggest that the main thing that will come out of this reform package is that you're going to return a lot of women to Afghanistan, because there's not a lot of women from Afghanistan who are in the small boats. That is not what is happening. We all know that the unaccompanied young men who are coming over, largely the people who are on those boats, are not fleeing war and persecution in a straightforward way.
No.
And when they did, they ended up in a safe country that wasn't the UK, but they will do anything to get into the UK because they know that if they get here, they probably won't be deported. And what Reform have done is put them on notice of saying, well, actually, you will be.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have a look at what Nigel Farage said about the public disorder that he thinks might happen if we don't sort this problem out.
That without action, without somehow the contract between the government and the people being renewed, without some trust coming back, then I fear deeply that anger will grow. In fact, I think there is now, as a result of this, a genuine threat to public order.
And he's not wrong, is he? Because we've seen the public disorder, shall we say, but very peaceful public disorder, which I think is a great thing to see outside all of these hotels up and down the country, because people have just had enough, and they've also started to work out what's been going on, because it's all been a bit mysterious. You know, the Home Office has been very, I would say, underhand in the way that they've distributed these migrants around the country. But now that they've started to have to put them in parts of the southeast of England, it's suddenly kind of taken off, hasn't it?
So a democracy is dependent on there being a social contract between the governed and those who govern us, right? The notion is that you can trust the people in power to act on your wishes. You vote them in, that's what democracy is all about. I'm afraid that we have had a form of government that has done anything but behave as though it's accountable to the public. It's done a lot of its policies are done behind the backs of the public. As I say, they either use the international law or they've downright misled people, or in secret, as you have just indicated, put people in local hotels, never told anyone. You know, people have just suddenly turned up out of nowhere, completely deceptive. And when that happens, that sense of betrayal by the public will spill over into anger. I mean, there's despair. There's different phrases for there. There's despair. You're pulling your hair out. You can't stand it. You feel so frustrated that you aren't being told straightforwardly what's going on. And then you can get angry and annoyed and furious. Now, it's been brilliant that ordinary people, after years and years of feeling that they've been gaslit and treated with total contempt for their rightful concerns about mass migration in general and the illegal immigration in this particular instance and the effect it's having on their local communities, have started organising protests and have started acting. That's also part of democracy, where you start taking things into your own hands and saying, we're going to draw attention to this story. And they have done. But if then you're ignored, if that social contract is ripped up by the government, then I think that, Nigel Farage has got a point, that that can then lead to people's anger boiling over.
Right.
Now, we saw a bit of you doing it this morning, I'm with you on the Torsten Bell frustration, by the way.
Right.
Not one of my favourite politicians. But the main thing is, people can get furious. And if you believe that your democratic rights are just being trodden all over by politicians, then ultimately you damage a democratic, peaceful society, and that can lead to disorder. And it's something we should all be wary of, frightened of. We don't want that. But it will happen if politicians carry on ignoring the will of the people.
Absolutely right. And we just found out, by the way, that Torsten Bell's got a twin brother who's called Olaf Henriksen Bell, and in January he was appointed as the new director of the Number 10 Policy Unit. So it's like a family affair. We have twin bozos, running the country. His previous role was as EU Director at the Foreign Office. We've got to get rid of these people. We're never going to get anywhere, even if Nigel Farage gets into government, if we continue to have this nonsensical kind of, blob sitting around in all of the departments of state who don't let anything absolutely happen other than what they think should happen.
Oh, there's a lot of dynasties involved in the Labour government, let me tell you. That blob is made up of families. I mean, it makes me laugh because at the House of Lords they're getting rid of the hereditary peers, and they say, we shouldn't be influenced by who's related to who. Well, you actually look at the family trees of the people behind the scenes in Westminster, and I can tell you it's an intricate and very intimate set of people, because the thing about politics at the moment, and this is all political parties, I don't mean reform, but the mainstream ones, is that because people haven't kind of worked their way through the ranks by being, in the old days, it would have been the trade unions, rank and file, shop steward or whatever, or local community leaders. These are people who went from university to work for MPs, and they've kind of never left the Westminster village, right?
No.
And so they kind of say, oh, I know somebody would be good at this job. It's my brother, or it's my sister-in-law, or it's my whatever. And the next minute, you've got these kind of like big families. So that drives me mad as well. But the blob, even if they're not related to each other, are the blob. And they have become a barrier to democratic decision-making, in my opinion. They just say no all the time, or they conduct politics based on their own policy priorities and not based on what anybody voted for.
Not based on any sort of relevance to ordinary people in the country.
No, not at all.
They all live in this little Westminster bubble, and they travel from Westminster Station to wherever it is they live, and they come in every day and they work in these kind of tiny little cells, if you like, where they don't talk to anybody who's got a real life.
And the thing is, I am in that Westminster bubble now because I go into the House of Lords regularly. But the thing that's really fascinating to me is I never was. I'm relatively new to this late in life. And when people used to call it the Westminster Village, I didn't know what they meant.
Right.
And now I actually see it's just like it's the smallest group of people and everybody knows everyone else.
Yeah.
And it really is a very unhealthy atmosphere. It's inward looking rather than outward looking.
Sure. What did you think of the news this week? And we'll get on to Nick Thomas-Symonds in a minute, who's been out and about doing the rounds on TV talking about energy bills. What did you think of the suggestion this week that Labour say they're going to sack members of the House of Lords who don't turn up for work?
Well, obviously I've got a lot of sympathy with it. I can understand the motives behind it, but I mean, talk about fiddling while Rome burns. I mean, I'm forever there, so I mean, it's not going to affect me. I'm actually rather insulted about the argument that they're going to get rid of people over 80.
Yeah.
I only say that just because some of the more interesting characters in the House of Lords are over 80, and it's actually quite inspiring seeing older people making good points. But, the House of Lords does need a proper reform, but I just feel they're almost doing anything to distract from what they should be doing. The country faces so much in the way of massive, almost revolutionary change. I mean, if we actually do enact some of the things that would need to happen in order to, for example, just deal with the immigration crisis as we speak, then they've got their work cut out. But instead, what they think is they can get the headlines by messing around with this kind of headline grabbing but not very effective or not very interesting reform of the House of Lords. You know, yes, fair enough, but God, it's the very low down the priorities.
Yeah, I know. Let's talk about the price cap on energy, because once again, having been told that they're going to put it down, it seems to be going up again. Let's have a look at Nick Thomas-Symonds, the current government ministers doing the rounds, obviously not coming to us. They don't like to come to our show. Here's what he said.
And in relation to the point in your question of reducing bills by £300, that is something we stand by. We will be looking to achieve that by 2030, and that means taking decisions now, the long-term decisions that are going to make a difference. The energy price cap, for example, remains very, at the level it is, essentially because we still have the wholesale price of gas 75% higher today than it was before Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. That's why we need to get off the fossil fuels price roller coaster.
The fossil fuels price roller coaster is only the fossil fuel price roller coaster because we don't generate our own gas, which we could do if they hadn't closed off all the bleeding fields in the North Sea, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if ever there was a revolution needed, it's in energy production. I really despair when I hear him speak, because he sort of says about the £300. I mean, by the time we get that £300, which I don't believe we ever will get,
no, we'll never see
bills will have bills will have gone up £400 or £500, so it won't make any difference. The thing, we've got this Battle of Ideas Festival, and one of the coming up in October. But yes. I mentioned that because we've got a couple of sessions. One is called "Why Are Our Energy Bills So High?" Right, and another one called "Drill Baby Drill." Because one of the things that is absolutely clear is the reason why energy prices are so high is because we've adopted this utterly ludicrous adherence to, again, net zero, as though it's like an act of God. We have to do this because we have to meet our carbon reduction targets and so on and so forth. And what has happened is the potential for cheap energy is dependent on exploiting domestic energy sources. And that will mean oil. That will mean potentially looking at fracking. That will mean a whole range of imaginative ways. And what do they say is, no, we can't do that. 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 And so it is disgusting that we are now in a situation where they behave as though the energy prices are going up and the Ofgem's announcement is some kind of a surprise, when any of us could have worked out that their energy policies, the Labour government's energy policies, started as well by the Conservative government before them, are somehow ever going to lead to cheap, abundant energy, not something that they prioritise at all. And we should.
I know, absolutely right. And I mean, that is the absolute and utter sort of crux of the matter, that they don't have a clue what the hell they're doing. I mean, I want to go back to that Donald Trump, they don't know what they're doing. It's almost like you could just use that for almost every department of state. I should also mention, by the way, that myself and Kevin O'Sullivan, the Thought Police, are coming to your Battle of Ideas, and we're going to be doing a little live podcast as well, so we're looking forward to that sometime in October, I think it is, right?
18th and 19th of October, indeed it is. At the heart of Westminster, but not part of the Westminster Village.
Not part of the Westminster Village, no, definitely exactly. Not. Excellent. Good to see you. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Baroness Claire Fox there, sensible woman in the House of Lords. One of the reasons why the House of Lords is a good thing is because of people like her, who's there for the duration. Director, of course, of the Academy of Ideas as well. We'll be doing, myself and Kevin O'Sullivan will be doing a show there on the 18th and 19th of October. I think it's on the Sunday. We'll let you know more details about that as we get closer to it. Don't forget, Morning Glory podcast coming up every single weekday after the show finishes. You can find it around about 10:15, 10:30. Mike says, Dave, the trouble with two-tier Kia doing deals with the Taliban and these other countries will end up being 1 out, 10 in, and an overseas territory thrown in. Yeah, but if Nigel Farage does it, it might be a very, very different kettle of fish. Why are you not talking about Labour needs to go cap in hand for a loan from the IMF? Look what happened to Greece. says Mark. Well, we are talking about it. And Jay says, morning, Mike. Everyone's talking about when Nigel Farage gets into power, he will sort out our problems. But what people forget is that we will have to wait 4 years for that to happen. This illegal migration problem needs to be tackled now, not 4 years from now. Whichever government wins the next general election will have to deal with the exponential numbers reached in the coming years. Well, as you know, if you're a keen listener to this show, I've been saying for pretty much the last 6 or 7 months that there will be an existential crisis in this government. There will be a moment when the government literally falls over and there has to be a general election called, because that will be the only answer to fix it. And so that, I think, is still my position. And I still believe that that will happen. And it may happen sooner rather than later. And when it does happen, I'll be proved right yet again. Let's get a voice note from Brian.
Morning, Mike. Brian from the South End. On Farage's speech yesterday, I thought he was 100% right. But the media, you know, some of the questions are so stupid, you know, and they're asking him, you know, what are they going to do? You know, how are they going to feel if someone gets injured or hurt being sent back to Afghanistan? You know, I don't really care. I don't really care about that person. He shouldn't be here in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think many people do care. I think most people would say, if you get sent back to Eritrea and you get beaten to death by somebody with a club, or you get eaten by a lion or something, nobody cares, right? You get sent back to the Democratic Republic of Congo and you get your arms cut off by some maniac, you know, sorry, you shouldn't have come here in the first place. Go back to Afghanistan and you get, you know, stoned to death by the Taliban. Tough luck. I mean, just the way it goes. We can't, as Nigel Farage said, we can't control what everybody else does, and we can't be responsible for the countries that you came from who may want to punish you for leaving them. You know, you just can't come here. We don't want you. Just get lost. This is Talk.
Islamophobia wasn't coined by the Muslim Brotherhood, but they are the ones who popularized it. The Muslim Brotherhood are a deeply anti-Semitic, violent, extremist organization, deeply misogynistic, ties to Hitler and Nazism, and they wanted to use this term Islamophobia to conflate anti-Muslim hatred with criticism of Islam. So Islamophobia was designed specifically to be a tool with which to demonize anybody who criticizes the religion of Islam rather than who attacks individual Muslims.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. 8:36 is the time. Mike, if you think you lost it today, then spare a thought for those who find themselves swearing under our breath, calling Starmer what he is 100 times a day, says Kevin in Barnstable. Here's one from Steve. He says, Mike, how can I listen back to your rant? I've got FOMO. LOL. Lots of different things there. Well, it's on Twitter. They put it out on Twitter, so you can see it there. X, if you want to call it that. It's probably on YouTube as well. This from Margaret, who says this. Labour's family affair. Rachel, the economist's sister, is also an MP. Morgan McSweeney's wife is a Labour MP. Ethiopia has a former Labour MP boyfriend, and now the Ding Dong Bell brothers. Nice work, if you can get it. Absolutely right. Isn't it ridiculous how much of this nonsense is actually going on? It drives you insane, doesn't it? Here's one from Sam in Somerset. I found talkTV just over 18 months ago, and I was so relieved to realise I'm not alone in the way I think. Thank you, MG, for keeping me sane in this mad, bad world. And your epic rant just before 7 was a medal winner. Loved it. Yeah, well, we might play it out again before the end of the show. Right now, though, we're going to have a look at what's going on the Sun Letters page.
Letters from the Sun, the page where you tell Britain what to think. For more, visit thesun.co.uk.
And you might not be surprised to know that a lot of people are writing about the Labour government and not very happy about it either. David in Newcastle upon Tyne is the lead letter. He says, you have to wonder how Chancellor Rachel Reeves sleeps at night while her non-stop bungling causes so much financial pain for so many. With government spending soaring and debt ballooning, every decision she makes puts the mockers on growth. The Sun said the economic woes are piling up for her. Sadly, they are piling up for just about everybody and will do for as long as this particular excuse for government is in power. People are so upset with it. Robert says this in Sunderland. Labour should simply call their policy for making money the Peter and Paul system. They are robbing Peter to pay Paul. Peter being the British working class, pensioners and businesses, Paul being those who expect to get everything for nothing. Absolutely right. And Phil in Birmingham, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I don't think I've ever felt as angry as I do today. Taxpayers covering the council tax on one of Angela Rayner's 3 homes, Rachel Reeves' major tax assault, and Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's uselessness on illegal migrants. The government is in disarray. It really is. Absolutely appalling. And once again, we get the news this morning, breaking news earlier on, that the off-gen energy price cap is going to rise again in October by 2%, which means that you'll be basically paying roughly £1,755 for an average home in the UK. That's an awful lot of money for energy, for an awful lot of people who can't afford it. And of course, I'm getting messages from many of you saying, actually, we pay a lot more than that. One from John in Lincolnshire says, we live in a 3-bedroom detached house and are presently paying £207 a month for our gas and electricity, so nearly £2,500 a year. A 2% increase is very depressing. Love the show. Yeah, I know. So another, few hundred quid on the back of that, £2,500. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolute madness. The most expensive electricity in the world. Guess where? The United Kingdom, with Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's 8:39.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:42. This from Jackie in Hemel. Mike, can we set up a new one-in, one-out deal with Trump? We take Kinsey in and they get Ellen DeGeneres back. Great show, keep up the ranting. Yeah, that would work. Yeah, she can come live in the Cotswolds anytime. As far as I'm concerned, you've vented all our frustrations at the moment. No need to apologise as you speak for us, says Martin in Cornwall. And Anon says this, there's a long queue for Kinsey's hand, Mike. Oh, really? Is that what you're saying? Well, we shall see what we can do about that. Meanwhile, let's talk about the unemployment level in this country, because Kevin Barnett's here, partner in employment and HR at Leicester Aldridge. A piece in the Sun this morning, which shows that unemployment is set to reach its highest level since the hammer blow of the COVID pandemic. A weakening of the jobs market is expected to see a rate of 5% in the 3 months to August, and experts say it's only going to get worse. I don't know what this means. Kevin can explain, I'm sure. Kevin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
Yeah, very well, very well. Slightly frustrated, slightly angry, slightly kind of, edgy, shall we say. I'm sick to death of this government screwing everything up and doing everything that they can to completely ruin the economy for small business and everybody else. I mean, it looks as though, I know from my own kids' point of view that there's not really any jobs going, is there?
No, it's... To be honest, whether or not it's this government's fault, probably slightly more debatable. I think this is something that's been coming for a while.
Yeah.
We act for a number of global companies, large internationals, and it's not something that's unique to this country. It is happening across the world. A lot of it is global uncertainty. Tariffs, things like that, are affecting people's ability to plan forward. Therefore, it makes people less willing to recruit, less willing to take people on. Yes, the factors that the Sun has mentioned in respect of national insurance increases, national minimum wage increases, do play into that in this country. But as I say, it's not necessarily unique to what's happening here. Any increase in unemployment is always unwelcome. But it is something, as I say, which I think is more a global issue than necessarily purely a UK issue at the moment.
Well, you say that. I don't know if that's true, but certainly we would all like to see it recover. Are you saying that's not going to happen?
Not anytime soon. I don't think that's likely. We have a lot of headwinds. As I say, economic uncertainty, I think, from most of my clients' point of view, is where the problem arises. If they can't plan ahead because there's no uncertainty about what costs are going to be, what their export market is, what taxes are going to be applied to them, it's very difficult for them to decide what to do. We have, as employment lawyers, seen quite an increase over the last couple of months in people asking for advice on redundancy programs. In a couple of years, we possibly see 3 or 4 requests for advice per year. Over the last couple of months, that's probably been 3 or 4 requests every other week.
Yeah.
So there are clearly...
That's a big increase, isn't it?
Reduce.
Yeah. But isn't it the case that really the problem, whether it's global or not, the problem certainly in this country is lack of confidence in what's going to happen to the economy going forward, that, nobody's really sure whether things are going to get any better. A lot of companies that I speak to anyway are saying, well, we can't really invest any money because we don't know what the future prospects are. We don't know really what Rachel Reeves is going to do in the autumn budget, and it might all be a much more difficult picture than it is even now.
Yeah, and that goes back, as I say, to the idea of economic uncertainty. If you know exactly what's going to happen, you can plan for it. But if you're concerned about additional taxes, you're concerned that, there's going to be a change in CGT or business taxes, you are going to basically take protective action, not take lots of people on because you just don't know what that cost is going to be. And I think that's added to by this idea of, sort of the leak stories of what may or may not happen. What you tend to find, certainly from the legal perspective, is that people in advance, because they've heard of a leak, stop doing what they would otherwise doing in terms of recruitment, or look at getting rid of staff earlier on because they think something is going to happen. So there is a need for that almost absolute certainty for business planning.
But we also know there's an awful lot of job vacancies, right? So all these people are out of work. Why aren't they going to go for those jobs that are actually vacant?
It's an interesting question, because the care sector, where we do a lot of work in particular, does have a massive number of vacancies. Right. The fact is that people just don't seem to want to do those particular jobs. They regard them as low paid on minimum.
So they're unemployed by choice in that case, then, aren't they? They're not desperate people looking for a job. They're quite happy to remain unemployed.
Well, I can't necessarily say that they're unemployed by choice, but there are certainly an awful lot of jobs in particular sectors that people just do not want to do. And that creates a difficulty, and that has been obviously part of why we had things like the social care visas and people coming in to do that work, because we can't actually recruit within this country for that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, you know, if we've got a bunch of people unemployed, we've got a bunch of jobs, we need to get the two things together, it seems to me. Kevin, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Partner in Employment and HR at Leicester Aldridge. Let's go to Chris, who says here, stop calling them lefties. It sounds cuddly. Call them communists. Then we understand what they are doing. And one from Paula, who says, we're putting flags up in our area, and some people who have been erecting the flags are getting verbally and physically abused. It's disgusting. We do have a group of people who are going around taking the flags down, but we have just been putting them back up again. All the people in the area just coming together for one cause. It's a good feeling. I think it's a good thing to see, actually, the way that the country is kind of coming together around the flags of Great Britain and also the flags of England. It's superb. Coming up, Professor Carol Sikora is going to talk to us about the state of the cancer business in this country and how there's a big time bomb coming. Also, we're going to be looking at what's going on in the world of sport with Catherine Walsh from The Sun. This is Talk.
They have tunnels under hospitals. Yeah. Or like somebody else said once, they don't build hospitals, they don't build tunnels under hospitals, they build hospitals over tunnels. Yeah. They've got an incredible amount of hospitals, more than in Israel, because that is the decoy for the actual tunnel opening, which is where they keep their terrorism infrastructure. And of course, like you mentioned, you've got these journalists, some of them are working for Hamas, some of them are sympathetic to Hamas, and some of them are just scared of Hamas.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Ronald says, I've got a 4-bedroom house and last month my gas and electric bill was 325 quid. Crikey, that's a lot of money, isn't it? He's paying nearly £4,000 a year. Never mind the old price cap, which says 1,755. It's absolutely ridiculous. The price of gas and electricity is nonsensical in this country. The most expensive electricity in the world, which doesn't really bear thinking about, does it? Right now, though, we've got to move on and do something different. Sport with the Sun. It's 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from the Sun.
Let's talk to Catherine Walsh, sports reporter at the Sun. Catherine, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Good to see you. Let's talk about what's coming up tonight. Grimsby versus Manchester United. I mean, what's going to happen there? Because it's the Carabao Cup clash, but Man United have only got 1 point in the Premier League so far, have a bit of a shaky start. Is this the beginning of their recovery?
Yeah, well, it's a must-win. They have to win this game, and they can't have a sort of marginal win either. I think it has to be a statement win against the League Two side that are 56 places below them. You know, within their right, they think they can win the game, but United need to win this one strong. They're going to make a lot of changes to the squad. Hopefully, Amorim said that he will rotate, so it will give an opportunity for some of the players that haven't played in the first 2 games, which, as you say, were winless.
Yeah.
To finally get on the pitch.
I guess it's one of those sort of delicate balances, isn't it? You don't want to put out a team that's so weak that he might lose, particularly now, because if they got knocked out, it would be disaster, wouldn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. If they got knocked out now and defeated, it would be devastating. I think it'd probably be the worst defeat in English football history. There would be probably riots outside Old Trafford if they were to lose this. So they need to win, and they have a strong enough squad that they should be beating League Two side. So there's no excuses and there's no room to hide.
No, absolutely right. And meanwhile, somebody's willing to leave Manchester United, Kobe Mainoo.
Yep, so Kobe Mainoo is an academy player that came through the ranks at the age of 6, breaking through in 2023. He started most of the games for England, including the final of the Euros, and he was considered to become like the beacon of the club and the future of the club in midfield. But under this new manager, he seems to be a victim of new manager, new system, and the new manager's not playing him at all. He hasn't featured at all, has had no minutes for Man United this season in the opening 2 games, with players that are not normally holding midfielders playing in his position. So he is considering a move to try and get into the England squad next year for the World Cup.
Right. OK. And finally, Celtic, out of the European Cup, a bit early.
Yeah, so Celtic were dumped out of the Champions League playoffs. Scottish champions lost to a side from Kazakhstan, who are ranked 311th in the world. Kairat-Motir, they lost 3-2 on penalties after 2 0-0 draws and in 210 minutes of football. They lost £20 million from not qualifying now for the Champions League. Rangers play tonight. They will hope to beat Club Brugge, but Celtic could have won it at the end of the game in the 85th minute. Dyson Madeir missed a sitter, and then he missed a decisive penalty too. So it's not looking good over there. Brendan Rodgers is under pressure for failing to qualify.
Because it's cost them, as you say, an absolute fortune. You know, they can't afford to not have that money, can they?
No, they can't, and the fans are despondent already. There was a lot of chants for sack the board because they haven't spent and replaced the players that have left. So that 20 million definitely would have helped them a lot to do that. And yeah, missing out is a huge loss to them.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's all happening in the Sun. Catherine, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Catherine Walsh, sports reporter at the Sun. That was 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from the Sun.
Let's change tack again before we get to the top of the hour at 9 o'clock into the final hour of the show. Carol Sakura is here, Professor Carol Sakura, no less, Medical Director of Rutherford Cancer Centres. Carol, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Good to see you, sir. As usual, it's, I'm afraid, a tale of woe. You and I have been talking about cancer treatment for many a year, and you've constantly continued to tell me, basically, that, you know, we need to up our game, we need to get better at, you know, finding cancer in the first instance and referring people, getting them seen quicker. It looks as though we're now talking about a cancer time bomb. One Briton will be diagnosed every 2 minutes by 2040, and apparently different regions of the country are suffering in quite a lot of bad ways.
Yep, the real problem, Mike, is aging populations, and that's a good thing. It means we're living longer, we're living healthier into an old age. And it stresses everything, dementia care homes, all this sort of thing. But cancer is very much age-related. Sure, children get cancer and young people can get cancer, but it's relatively rare, fortunately. It's mainly a disease of the over 50s, and it's increasing dramatically as populations age. And it's all over the world. It's nothing to do with Britain. Different health services are coping in different ways. Ours is just not coping. And to me, the obvious reason why we're behind the league tables in cancer care across Europe is that we do have fantastic cancer treatment facilities, fantastic doctors, nurses, all the rest of it, but accessing the system, if you have a problem, is difficult. Getting to see your GP. I mean, I met at the Summer Fate who had a clear-cut skin cancer, and she'd been trying to get an appointment. I took a photo. I said, send this to your GP with my name on it. She got an appointment the next day, thank goodness. Well, that's the sort of thing that's going on, and it's the delay that really kills people. It allows cancer to spread.
Yeah, and that is the problem, isn't it? Are we getting any closer to I mean, I'm not going to ask you for a cure for cancer, but finding out more about how it occurs in people and why certain people get it and certain people don't get it?
That's a very good question. We don't really understand that. And the other interesting thing at the moment, Mike, is that younger people, people under 50, are increasing the incidence of cancer. Nothing to do with their age. It's just going up. And we think that's lifestyle. So the hope is that artificial intelligence, with that wonderful word AI, will put things together and allow us to see patterns that will allow us to predict who's going to get cancer. Because if I could predict you were going to get a certain type of cancer, we could monitor you much more closely than you would just as a general member of the population.
Yeah. And I think, considering that, you know, the amount of money that goes into various different kinds of medicine, you would hope to think that you'd make some progress in that over the course of time. But as you say, it's more about just continuing to keep a check on it and going and get tested with you know, whatever age you are.
I think the one thing, again, in the future, a blood test that can detect multiple cancers, just a finger prick or even maybe a saliva sample or a urine sample, which will allow you to, you know, utopian dream is you go to the toilet, women's or men's, and somehow the toilet sends a signal because you've passed a urine sample that says you may have a type of cancer. Is that a dream or is it a scientific possibility? I think it is a possibility within a 10-year framework that you could have tests that people could do regularly, every month, for example, that would tell them that they may need to get a check. But the system's got to be made more accessible. It just is not accessible at the moment.
No, sure. Professor Carol Sikora, great to talk to you as well. Sorry it's a bit short today. We'll try and get you on for longer coming soon. Medical Director of Rutherford Cancer Centre saying that, you know, we need to get better at finding out what's wrong with us, I guess. Coming up in the next hour, Kevin Holdingrake's going to be here, and loads more. We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently are going to build in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going around that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park.
So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed. Very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the Parks Hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. And they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it a channel and say anyone who can break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to very nearly 4 minutes past 9. I'm here, of course, until 10 o'clock. It's the final hour of the show. Lots and lots of you getting in touch, and many of you being very complimentary about my rant earlier on the show, which I'm afraid came straight from the heart. You know, sometimes you have to just let it out because it's good for your mental health, apart from anything else. Martin from Gillingham says this: you should get an award for your rant. Unemployment, sadly, the modern lack of values. If you really want to work, you will do anything. Keep up the great work. Morning, Mike, says Stephen Ipswich. I just had a meltdown and a swear-a-thon. I just read that as useless lump Starmer states without the ECHR, we're as bad as Russia and Belarus. Yeah, I haven't actually checked this morning to see what the first lie of the day is from Keir Starmer and Downing Street, but we'll check it out. Front page of The Sun, it's all about Taylor Swift. Look what you made me, I do. Obviously, you'll know what that means if you know Taylor Swift songs. Look what you made me do. She's announced her engagement to Travis Kelce after the NFL player proposed to her in a rose-filled garden. It's all very sweet and lovely, and I don't imagine anybody feeling bad about that. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage, also on the front pages this morning, will deport 600,000 people. It's the story on the front page of The Sun. Nigel Farage yesterday vowed to deport them in his first term of Reform UK, win the next election, saving taxpayers billions. Front page of the Daily Mail has got another picture of Angela Rayner on it, saying what this photo says about the smug, tin-eared socialist clique driving Britain into the ground. That's a column from Sarah Vine. We may well talk to Sarah Vine tomorrow about that. And then the main headline says, finally, a politician who gets it. Nigel Farage promises unprecedented measures to halt illegal migration in the face of mounting public anger and despair. Labour, of course, bid to head off small boats. It's trouble, is what it says on the front page of The Times. The Times, which is relatively kind to the Labour government, says basically they've got a big problem with the French police, who apparently were going to intercept migrant boats at sea for the first time. That's all in jeopardy because the government in France is about to collapse, apparently. Meanwhile, in the Daily Telegraph, we found out that the Taliban have decided to give Nigel Farage a deal on migrants, and they're saying quite openly, we're more than happy to take a load of people back from Afghanistan who came here, so let's ship them all back. All these people who apparently came to this country claiming to have helped us win the war against the Taliban, except of course we didn't win the war against the Taliban, they all came here in their thousands, tens of thousands of them, under cover of darkness, smuggled in by the Foreign Office, because the Foreign Office screwed up by letting a list of people which should have been completely and utterly safe and should have been completely and utterly confidential, got published. It now turns out Taliban officials said, we are ready and willing to receive and embrace whoever Nigel Farage sends us. We are prepared to work with anyone who can help end the struggles of Afghan refugees, as we know many of them do not have a good life abroad. Yeah, well, sorry about that, guys. I'm sure if you want to go back to, you know, beating women and stoning them to death and, you know, putting them in burqas, you know, by all means going back to Afghanistan. We don't want you either. 0344 499 1000. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Let's get a rant from Dan on my rant.
Morning, Mike. It's Dan from Kent. I love it when you're angry. It shows you've got a bit of passion. It's the only media outlet talk that tells it how it really is. I mean, if Rachel from a council or Torsten Bell was actually doing a great job, we wouldn't be in this mess financially, would we? Same with Yvette Cooper, Keir Starmer. If he was doing a great job, we wouldn't have trouble with immigration. Yeah, keep up the good work. Brilliant.
Dan, thank you very much indeed. I do appreciate it. Sometimes I just do go off on one because I can't help it. You know, I'm sitting here every day for 4 hours a day, and sometimes it just gets to me. On the subject of jobs, says Kian in Cornwall, I run a small business installing wood burners in the southwest, in Cornwall to be precise. We are bucking the trend in recruiting, but to do this I'm working 7 days a week and often 12 to 14 hours a day just to get the work in. And as for this, I'm earning less than minimum wage myself, as is my other half that also runs the business with me. I have never worked so hard and earned so little, but we just have to knuckle down and carry on in the hope that reform get in and hopefully improve the economy. Yeah, absolutely right. And on the subject of electricity, this from Earl, he says, we are currently £2,500 per year in electricity while trying to avoid using it, and £2,500 in council tax. Greenwich Council, which calls itself a refugee sanctuary council. Oh, and I tell that plank Torsten Bell, if you're unemployed, you can't pay your mortgage. We need all of these people gone from government, civilians, services and councils, hospital management, water, electricity, etc., who have never worked in any real job. Well, this is the problem. There's a sense that there's nobody running the world of Britain at the moment, the UK, the United Kingdom PLC, who knows what they're doing. Let's talk to Kevin Hollinrake, MP, who's chairman of the Conservative Party. Kevin, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
People getting very worked up this morning about many things, including Ofgem raising energy prices once again in October by 2%. For an awful lot of people, they're saying to me this price cap of £1,755 is a complete fantasy. They're all paying an awful lot more.
Well, they are paying more, and even when you look at the price cap year on year, it's gone up by £200, and that's against the backdrop of Labour, of course, promising Mad Ed Miliband, talking about reducing it by £300 a year. So it's another broken promise by Labour. I think what you said in the lead up to introducing me, Mike, is totally right. You've got a cabinet, none of whom have got any business experience. I was in business myself for 30 years before politics, starting a small business, building a national one, and many of my colleagues in the Conservative Party have done the same. So we need some proper business know-how to be able to start putting things back as they should be and running this country properly.
That's the thing. I mean, I get more and more messages from people. This one from Christopher, who says the price cap is complete well, I can't even say it. Rubbish. Sorry. I've already been in trouble for swearing this morning. I live in an extended 3-bedroom semi where I care for my bedridden mother who has Parkinson's, dementia, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis and stage 3 kidney disease. If the heating is not on to keep her warm, the air conditioning is on to keep her cool, and her health means it's difficult for her to keep a stable temperature. And he says, basically, his electric bill has just been put up to £460 a month. That's in Epsom, in the south of London.
Yeah, I mean, the price cap itself is anti-competitive, isn't it? I mean, what you really want to happen is make sure that energy producers can produce more energy. That will bring prices down as supply increases. But there have been brakes put on gas exploration in the North Sea. Ed Miliband is purely focused on renewables. We should be looking at new nuclear and replacing existing nuclear. All those things we need to do to increase the amount of energy produced. That's the way to bring prices down rather than having some artificial cap, which won't have that effect. It needs to be a market-driven solution.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't look as if they've got a clue of how to make that work, does it? Because they keep complaining that fossil fuels is driving up the price, excuse me, of gas and electricity, when actually, in actual fact, it's the fact that they're not drilling and not exploring for our own gas and oil.
That's exactly right. I mean, drilling for more gas and oil hasn't driven prices up in the US, it's driven them down. And so we should copy that. We should emulate that production. I mean, if you've got domestic production available in the North Sea, for example, why not push ahead with that? Because it's good for prices generally, but it's also good for the UK economy because the companies producing it pay more tax, and that's good. It lowers the burden then on our taxpayers. That's the right way to go about producing more domestic energy, which is good for the UK. All Ed Miliband's approach is going to do is going to mean more imports of gas from abroad, including much of it liquefied, which is very energy intensive and very bad in terms of its carbon footprint.
Yeah. Now, the big story in the papers this morning, obviously, is all about Nigel Farage. He captured the nation's kind of attention yesterday with his press conference yesterday morning. We caught up with it today. Let's have a look at what he said reform is going to do on illegal migration.
Here's what we have to do to make Operation Restoring Justice actually work. We have to leave the ECHR. No ifs, no buts. It may have been a good idea 80 years ago. Frankly, it isn't today. We have to repeal the Human Rights Act of 1998, brought in by a Blair government, many of whose families seem to do rather well off the back of it. We will, for a 5-year period, disapply the 1951 Refugee Convention and any other barriers that can be used by lawyers in this country to prevent deportations, to prevent the right thing from happening. We'll create a legal duty for the Home Secretary to remove those that come illegally. And crucially, we will detain all illegal migrants who come, and we will do so immediately.
My listeners and viewers here on Talk, Kevin, are very much welcoming what he said. Kemi Badenoch came out and said, well, basically he's just nicking all of our ideas and we've got more ideas, but we're not going to tell you what they are for a while. He's kind of left the Tories in his wake here, hasn't he?
Well, it's interesting because we published our plans in terms of which are very similar to Nigel Farage's plans in May of this year. So it's kind of, he's following in our wake, if you like.
Well, you didn't say you were going to leave the ECHR, though, did you?
Yeah, we effectively did, because we said we'd disapply the Human Rights Act, which embodies the ECHR in our domestic law. So we said we'd disapply the Human Rights Act in immigration cases. So pretty much we did. Whether we'll leave it completely...
Not quite, though. Pretty much. I mean, well, I've interviewed Kemi Badenoch and I asked her about the ECHR, and she said, you know, I would consider leaving it if that was necessary, but she hasn't actually said she would leave it.
No. That's true, Mike. What she's done, Kemi. Can I just say, Nigel Farage only a few months ago was saying tow the boats back to France. He's realised you can't do that because he hadn't thought through the plans. What Kemi Badenoch has said, she wants to think through his plans properly. She's got Lord Wolfson, who's one of the most eminent lawyers in the country, looking at the implications of leaving the ECHR. She said she's minded to leave, and there'll be an announcement in the next few weeks in terms of what we're actually going to do. And I think you can read from that, and what I read from that is that, you know, we won't let the ECHR stop us. If it means leaving, we will leave. Now, I say I'm not going to preempt that announcement, but the reality is Nigel Farage has shifted from where he was before. We'll just tow the boats back to France. We told him that wouldn't work. He then adopted pretty much our entire policy around deportation and in terms of controlling illegal migration as well as illegal migration.
Well, you've never used the words, but Kevin, you've never used the words as a Tory party, mass deportations. You've never said that.
Well, we haven't used that exact phrase, but it was the deportation bill, and we'll say we'll deport every single illegal migrant and every foreign national offender. That's what we've committed to do. So it adds up to the same thing, Mike. Now, if we don't want to use emotive language, okay, that's a choice we make, and presentationally, Nigel Farage is very effective. But the reality is you've got to look the detail behind his plans and the fact Nigel Farage has a tendency to rush plans out without considering them properly. And people should consider that his spending plans, his tax and spend plans, are £120 billion a year underwater. They're just not affordable. So you've got to look at this in the broad context, not one isolated policy, but yes, we need to control legal migration. We need to stop completely illegal migration, but we do it in a way that's affordable and doesn't make the country bankrupt.
So the problem, Kevin, for you guys is that you had some years to do it. I mean, the boats started coming around about 2018, and you were in charge until 2024. And so for 6 years, you really didn't do anything to stop the boats at all. And all I'm saying is I'm amplifying the views of the people that talk to me, who call into the show, who say basically the Tories are finished in terms of, you know, telling us how they would do it, because they could have done it and they didn't.
Well, the things that in Parliament are more difficult, and with the courts are more difficult than people set out, and that's true. And we made promises that we didn't deliver upon, but it's wrong to say we did nothing. You say about the boats, that's true. They started in 2018, but to a very small degree.
Yes,
it kicked off during the pandemic.
Yeah, but it got a lot better. It got bigger, didn't it, during the pandemic?
And then we started control. It brought it down by 30%. But ultimately, we felt the only way to deal with this was through the Rwanda plan, the deterrent. That is the Rwanda plan, deporting every single person who arrives on that route out of Rwanda, against huge opposition politically and in certain elements of the media. But we got those plans through, despite Labour and the Liberal Democrats voting against them 134 times. That's what we did. Then we were blocked by the courts. And Nigel Farage is wrong to say that the only thing that's going to stop him is the ECHR and the UN Convention on in terms of refugees. The common law also plays a part in this. So there'll be battles ahead with the courts. We're willing to take on those battles. That's why we've got Lord Wolfson having a proper considered look at this before we announce our plans in full. But I promise you now, if I didn't think we were going to deal with this situation, I would not be backing Kemi Badenoch, indeed the Conservatives. It's hugely important. I think we can do it. We can do it in a way that's considered, but also will balance the books in the process.
Well, let me play you a voice note that I got a little bit earlier on in the show this morning. I think it's from Sarah, who said that she got this message from Kemi Badenoch.
I still get the Conservative emails, and I got an email from Kemi yesterday saying about the Epping Forest Hotel and how other councils should follow suit, and isn't it a win? Kemi, you're a week too late, mate. Sorry, you've missed the boat on that one, literally.
So, I mean, that's what people are saying. And again, you know, I take your point. I understand, Kevin, that, you know, times were different, and also that Labour was very much in opposition and very much tried to stop. But you had a majority, and there was a certain squeamishness, I think, from an awful lot of Conservative members of Parliament who didn't want to actually reject these people coming from foreign countries. Are you saying that you've now changed your view on that?
I think, not my view. I was the same view then, but I agree with you. Some of my colleagues.
So you think we should turn them around as soon as they arrive? They're illegals. They should just get kicked out.
Oh yeah, they should be deported. I mean, the legislation we put in place, which we did pass, meant that illegal migrants were detained and deported. It was as simple as that. That's what we put in place. That's what I voted for. It's right to say some of my colleagues, a few of my colleagues voted against it, but the main opposition came from Labour and the Liberal Democrats and others. That's where the problem lies. So I understand that lady's frustration. I'm frustrated too. But if I didn't think Kemi Badenoch would deliver on this, then I would be a completely different view altogether in terms of my support for her or for the party. That's the reality. But I do think she's the strongest person we have in politics. I also think she's the most authentic. But she's realistic about how you balance the books in this country. And people should beware just being sold a dream that you can spend money left, right and centre and cut taxes left, right and centre, and all this is easy, because none of those things are true.
OK, good to talk to you. Kevin, thanks very much indeed. Kevin Hollinrake, MP, Chairman of the Conservative Party. One from Bill in Thailand. He says, great show, Mike. Can you explain to me, if Rachel from accounts needs 30 billion quid to fill the black hole she made, what happens in the middle of next year? Same again? Well, you do have to worry about that, don't you? Let's talk to Mark Littlewood, who's Director of Popular Conservatism UK. I'm sure he's got a thing or two to say about not only the migrant situation, but also the financial woes of Rachel Reeves. Mark, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Great to be with you.
Good to see you. The rise of borrowing has given Rachel Reeves a massive headache. I mean, we'll get on to, I guess, the problem with migration in a moment. But basically, she's really up at Gumtree, isn't she? She's got nowhere to go. There's no money in the pot. There's no money even in the pot that she's been borrowing from. And there's a massive black hole she's about to disappear into.
You've summed it up pretty well, Mike. It's a nightmarish situation. In part, I would say in quite large part of her own making. As soon as Labour got in, they went on a spending spree to increase pay to typically trade unionised workers in the public sector, their client base of voters, despite the fact that public sector productivity isn't going up. So these workers are receiving more pay despite the fact that their work was not improving. The Labour government has shown no ability at all to reduce spending, which is really what we need to do. In consequence, she's going to go after tax. But here is the problem. Those bond yields you were talking about, i.e. that's the cost the government has to pay, ultimately the taxpayer has to pay for borrowing money. That's becoming a nightmare because the UK PLC is looking less and less trustworthy. So we're now borrowing money just to service our debts. This is like borrowing on one credit card to pay the minimum amount on another credit card. A real nightmare.
Right.
Unfortunately, their default setting is they'll try and put our taxes up in October.
Yes, and I don't think the public are going to stand for it, to be honest. I mean, and this is how sort of out of touch I think Rachel Reeves is. She put this out yesterday, right, as if there's nothing wrong. Check this out.
Hi, Mark. Hello, I'm Rachel. The thriving creative industry sector here in Northern Ireland. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lovely to meet you all. Support local and national government here in Wales. To bring more investment to Scotland and the whole of the United Kingdom. This is all part of our plan for change. Growing the economy, creating more good jobs, paying decent wages in all parts of the country to make working people better off.
There's a bloke in there with no teeth. I'm not sure if they wanted to keep him in, but, I mean, it's kind of delusional, isn't it? You know, there she is going to Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, as if there's a sort of regional, you know, boost going on. There's no regional boost going on, and they've got the ludicrous kind of guitar music in the background. What's it all about?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem, Mike. It seems to me that this government believes you can get growth and investment and more and better jobs and an improving economy just by wishing it into existence. So they keep talking about growth is our #1 priority, but they're not pulling any of the levers or doing any of the things that you would expect a government to do if it really was their #1 priority. It's almost as if they believe if they just repeat the mantra enough, then economic growth will follow. Well, if you want economic growth, there's a pretty straightforward, tried and tested way to get there. You get the government to do less because government doesn't spend money very well. You deregulate rather than passing more and more regulations and red tape onto the shoulders of business. And you lower the tax burden responsibly but continually. And they are doing none of those things. They're doing the opposite. They are spending more, regulating more and taxing more. They should be wholly unsurprised that growth is not emerging. And I think they genuinely believe that all that was needed for the British economy was to kick out the Tories and to put the Labour hierarchy at the top table, and things would suddenly come good. Turns out that's not how things work economically. You actually need to have an economic strategy. There isn't one here. There are just wishes from the Labour
Exactly
government.
right. And it turns out as well, stories in The Sun this morning, unemployment's going to reach highest levels since the COVID pandemic, basically. And also our borrowing costs have surged. It's going to be a 27-year high, pretty much.
Yeah, it's all a pretty bleak picture. But again, we should be unsurprised, Mike. I mean, they put up employers' national insurance contributions. That makes it more expensive to retain and take on workers. And whether you're dealing with people, goods or services, if you put the price of something up, people consume less of it. So if you put the price of labour up, guess what? People take on fewer employees. It's wholly unsurprising. And the other thing you haven't mentioned, which is not at crisis levels yet, but requires us to keep a beady eye on, is inflation. Back up towards 4%. So you've got this sort of perfect storm.
Food inflation yesterday up 4.2%, which is up on the 4% it was up in July.
Yeah, exactly right. So again, we're finding that hitting people who are sort of just about on the margins of muddling through, right? It's not so much that a Lamborghini or a luxury yacht is going up in price. It's just typical weekly shock. So prices going up, jobs going down, borrowing costs going up. They need a complete U-turn, but I don't think they've got the political will or the imagination to do it. As I say, they made this effort, didn't they, earlier in the year to marginally trim welfare spending. and their backbenchers wouldn't put up with it.
No.
So we seem to be locked into ever higher spending, and that, I'm afraid, Mike, means we're in a doom loop economically.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I'm sorry to say. I agree with you. Mark Littlewood, thank you very much indeed. Director of Popular Conservatism. Morning, Mike, says Graham in Sunderland. Does Rachel Thieves have an enormous head? Every time we see her wearing a hard hat she's worn, it's teetering on top of her noggin very precariously. If she does have a huge head, it's obviously not full of brains. Great show as always. And one from Richard. Sorry, no, not Richard. Doesn't say who it is. Mike, when the economy was going well last summer, Richard III went out and rubbished it at every opportunity. Now it's on its knees. She's on TikTok telling us all how it's flying high. I believe this is Economics 101, taught at all economics courses and by economists at the Bank of England. Yes, I see what you're doing there. We may have to play that out in a moment. Let's get a voice note from Julia.
Morning, Mike. It's Julia from Non-Twitch. I'm just in bed, enjoying my day off today. I just feel like sticking my head under the covers again, listening to Torsten Bell. Anyway, lots of love, Mike. You take care of yourself and have a good day.
Julia.
Lots of love. Bye.
Julia,
Bye,
thank
everyone.
you very much
Bye.
indeed. Yeah, thanks very much indeed. Torsten Bell, yeah, he's been apparently he's been promoted inside the Treasury. This is a bloke who came up with the Ed Stone, you know, Ed Miliband's idea of actually some sort of top 10 commandments that if he was going to be leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister way back in the day when he was running for that. And it's now languishing in some warehouse in Hastings somewhere. It was that bad of an idea. Torsten Bell, he's got a twin brother, apparently, who also works for the government. Brilliant, isn't it? It's 9:27.
It's not just UCL, so many universities. I mean, you'll be hard-pressed to find a university that has said we will be upholding the Supreme Court ruling. But in my opinion, the real story here is the fact that these academics that you say are remaining anonymous because they're fearful of being vilified by their colleagues. I think it's so cowardly, and academics, and I understand, and I do to an extent sympathise with the fear, and I know full well the consequences that come with expressing the opinion that women have the right to single-sex spaces.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:31. There's a plague of rats coming, by the way, apparently because of the weather that we've had. Quite nice warm weather in the summer. It means that the rats are getting bigger, 15 to 25 inches long. We're going to speak to a rat infestation specialist in a minute. But first, we've got a much more important person to talk to, who is, of course, the one and only Mr. Jeremy Kyle, the host, of course, of the Drive Time show here at Talk. Jeremy, very good morning to you.
The rats?
Yeah, plague of rats coming. Stand by your beds. Listen, you and I have got lots to do and lots to talk about, and I've been told by Christian that I've got to get on with it. Because
why is he being bossy all of a sudden? What's he being bossy about with all the time in the world?
Well, I used a bad word this morning and he got a bit upset, and so we've been sort of rowing back ever since. I got a bit carried away. I called Torsten Bell a bad word. Anyway.
Did it begin with Tor?
It began with T and ended in T, and it had an A and a W in it. Anyway, listen.
That's for people who work Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, Christian.
Exactly.
Get with the programme.
Exactly right. Now, not only are you filling in for me, which is very kind of you, when I go off to see my family in America.
Can I apologise now to your listeners? Yeah.
It's okay, but we've got a big announcement to make, and if we can put it up, can we put it up in the middle right now? We've got an announcement to make. We are about to embark upon what can only be described as the world's greatest live show, coming in November the 15th. There we are. The world is Jeremy Kyle and Mike Graham's World of Common Sense. What's going on?
It's going to be the most extraordinary. I only do it with you, my partner in crime. One night only, well, unless people love it. November the 15th.
Yes.
At the Shepherd's Bush Empire, where they made Terry Wogan's programme for years, right? And just a run-through about all the stuff you and I do, the madness that engulfs this world. From Ethiopia with Angela Rayner to 25-inch rats and all the stuff in between.
Yeah, and a bit of Keir Starmer, release the sausages, all of that. Plus, I believe there's a word that we might be bringing back the lie detector.
Well, there's quite a lot going on. We might have some, we will have some very, very important guests. Yeah. We will have, it'll be seated only. I can only say, mate, it's going to be hysterical. It's going to be fun. You and I are well excited about this. We're doing this. When are tickets on sale?
This is what I've got here. Tickets go on sale on Friday, right? General sale from Ticketmaster from Friday at 10 a.m. But if you're a member of an O2, if you're an O2 customer, because it's an O2 theatre, you can buy via a 48-hour pre-sale from today at 10 a.m. So in literally, less than half an hour, if you're a member of the O2 customer service scenario, you can get pre-sale tickets right now.
But sales, it goes on online. You can see their Ticketmaster, all the details. Talk are involved in this as well. We'll both post it up. It'll be all over the Talk network. It is a one night only, unless it works, which we think hopefully will. Saturday the 15th of November. There's no freebies, by the way. I'm not having any of our colleagues go, can I get a free ticket?
No, none of that. No, absolutely not. There will be a guest list for certain people, obviously. We'll
very important guest list. And I have to say as well, a pretty genius couple of special guests, maybe 3 or 4, to be announced. But it's an exclusive. Me and my best mucker on stage, Shepherd's Bush Empire. They're letting us loose, MG. What's going to happen?
I know. Listen, we're filming it as well, so we'll be playing it out on the network. We'll be playing it. So if you can't get there, you'll be able to watch the whole thing at some point.
DVDs for Christmas
in the future. We might do a Christmas show. Who knows? I mean, that could be the next thing.
We might do 60 continuous nights if people love it. So it's going to be everything that you hear on Breakfast and Drive on Talk. It's going to be everything that you lot love. The common sense approach to the bloody madness.
Yeah.
People like Torsten Bell. Anyway, the most important thing is you can get your tickets from Friday Ticketmaster, and we'd love it if you came, wouldn't we, Michael?
We would, absolutely right. And as you say, on our individual social media accounts, we will post the details of the links of where you can get the tickets and all of that. So get stuck in, and it's a absolute bargain. A lot cheaper than Oasis or Taylor Swift. You know, you don't have to worry about any of that.
And we're not
All
getting
Coldplay.
engaged, it's all. We're not getting engaged to
Yeah.
upstage Meghan Markle.
I'm not getting married again, although I did propose to Kinsey Schofield earlier. I'm not sure if she's going to take me up on that. But
You
we'll see.
proposed to what's going on here? I found out yesterday that you're taking a lady out for dinner as well. It's all going on.
Yeah, well, you know, listen, we've got to get on with it. It's a busy time of year, you know. There's a lot of vacancies out there. What can I say?
So, ladies and gentlemen, dear sweet listeners, first of all, in for Mike from Friday for 4 days. Apologies for that, but we'll do all the usual stuff. Christian will not allow me to call Torsten Bella to air. But also, of course, the stage show, Saturday, 15th of November, The World of Common Sense, according to MG and JK. Please come along, because it will be an absolute laugh a minute.
It will. Absolutely right. Listen, I'll see you this afternoon, because I'll be back to do Plank of the Week, and also I'll be on your show probably later on. So
and
we'll
I'm
see
actually
you.
working Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays this week because I'm a Torsten Bell. Have a great morning. See you later.
See you later. Thank you very much indeed, Jeremy Kyle there. So, yeah, as I say, tickets on sale from Friday, but if you're an O2 customer, you can get them at 10 o'clock today. You get in there early and get yourself sorted out. Thank you very much indeed. I don't want any asylum seekers anymore, even from Ukraine, says Gavin. They're still playing their Premier League football in their country. I'm fed up of asylum seekers, especially these coming from France on a dinghy. Well, I think that's fair enough. Mike will not solve this migrant problem to get rid of Starmer. He's a human rights lawyer and puts everybody's human rights as a priority before the people of the UK. Let's talk about rats, shall we? Because it's time to talk to Kristen Hems, who is a pest interceptor from a company called Pest Interceptors. We're told there's going to be a plague of rats coming because the weather's been so nice over the course of the last couple of months that basically it's been warm, there's been loads of food out for them, and so they're growing to a large and mammoth extent. Kristen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Is this true? Have you seen some giant rats running around?
Oh, rats are definitely getting bigger at the end of the day because of the diet, you know?
Yes.
You think about it, they either eat out of our bins. What's in the bins? Loads of junk food, load of processed rubbish, or, and this is where they get most of their food from, and I'm sorry if you're having your breakfast, people, they eat our poo, and they live down the sewers, and they're eating our processed food all over again.
Yeah.
And all the drugs everyone's been prescribed. And so it's kind of, I don't know why it's a surprise to some people, in all honesty, because if we eat those foods, we get fatter. Why would a rat be any different? They're just mammals, the same as us.
True. But I guess the problem with the rats being the same as us is that, you know, we don't want to have there to be as many rats as there are humans, because they're probably cleverer than us and they'll take over. Crikey, look at that one's coming out the toilet.
That's a great bit of video there,
Jesus
right?
Christ.
That rat that's come through that U-bend.
That's not something you want to see, is it?
Well, I was horrified a couple of weeks ago when one of our clients sent me a video that he'd taken from inside one of his manholes. Now, a lot of manholes, especially in the London area, they're kind of protected by a Victorian invention, which is basically like a U-bend. It's called an interceptor trap, okay?
Yes.
And the water flows through the U-bend just like it does your toilet, and it stops rats coming from the main sewer, just like the U-bend in the toilet stops them coming out of your toilet. What we saw, though, absolutely blew my mind. We saw rats coming through his interceptor trap, through his U-bend, just the same as your toilet, like it didn't even exist. Now, the scary thing about that is rats have a thing called conditioned learning. So if one rat learns a trick, they all know the trick within a few months.
Yeah.
And they'll know the same trick in the whole of Greater London in 2 years.
Right.
Now, you imagine how many rats are stopped from getting out of the sewer and into drainage problems in people's houses by those interceptor traps.
Yeah.
That rat and its family knew the trick. The only reason they don't go by it through a U-bend, by the way, is because they don't know how far the water goes for. Now, this family of rats that we saw, they know it's only 2 inches of water.
Well, they're very clever, aren't they? I mean, I'm looking at another story, because the thing is, they're supposed to be able to swim in water, right? But apparently, down in the Amalfi Coast in Italy, a load of dead rats washed ashore. And people were going, What's going on here? Do they not like seawater?
I'm pretty sure it's a long time since I went to pest school, but I'm pretty sure a rat can tread water for 48 hours.
Okay.
Right? So,
but does salt water make a difference, or is it?
Well, it'd make them more buoyant, surely. Maybe they could do 50 hours.
Oh.
But the truth is, rats don't really die of old age, right? They die because people have given them poison.
Right. Okay.
Right? Now, those rats washing up there, if they've been poisoned, which is highly likely, extremely likely, I would say, well, what other animals have ate them?
Yeah, but you don't want to swim in the sea where there's a load of dead rats, do you?
Absolutely not. Well, I've heard down south somewhere, it might be Cornwall, there's a problem on a beach down there.
That's because Kevin O'Sullivan's gone down there.
Ah, right, you should have took me with him, because I'd have probably been able to prove where those rats are coming from.
Yeah.
There's another important thing with rats, Mike, right? It's a hierarchy. Now, the wokerati hate this, but that's the way it is. It's nature. You can have a nest of 20 rats or 2,000 rats. I'm afraid to say it's one alpha male at the top.
Yeah.
And what he decides is what they eat. They won't go around eating willy-nilly, right? They wait for the alpha male to say, this is what we eat now. Now, when that's poison, that means if you keep putting the poison down, you are going to wipe out the whole of the rat population connected to that alpha male.
Do they not become immune to the poison though, as well? After a while, because remember that scene? You know that scene in Skyfall where the guy talks to James Bond about rats on an island, and he said first of all they put the rats into a sort of barrel, and basically the rats ended up not eating anything other than each other, and in the end they killed each other off because they all just ate each other.
Well, they will. They're very, very cannibalistic, very cannibalistic. But you see, because of that hierarchy, poison should wipe them all out, Mike.
Yeah.
So why is the council breaking all the rules?
But it doesn't, does it?
Get to the root cause, mate.
Yeah. It doesn't do it. Listen, great to talk to you, Kristen. Very good to see you. Kristen Hems there from Pest Interceptors. If you need to get rid of some rats, he's the man to do it for you. But at the end of the day, who wants rats? Nobody does. They are stinking, horrible, ghastly creatures, but they're very intelligent, right? Some people keep them as pets, amazingly. Coming up, we're going to talk to Peter Blake, Chief Operating Officer of Haven Holidays, because apparently there's a record number of people not going abroad this year. They're all staying home because it's cheaper and they can take the dog, a bit like Kevin O'Sullivan did. It's 9:43.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. This one from Jeff, who says, "Morning, Mike. We have every light bulb LED and every appliance at least with an A+ rating. All new radiators with self-balancing valves, yet we still pay more than double for energy than what we paid just 5 years ago. Around £130 per month in the summer and £250 in the winter. And don't get me started on the daily standing charge. Absolute rip-off. Keep up the good work. Keep the common sense going." This is the thing. Ofgem have just announced today, this is breaking news this morning, they've raised the energy price cap by 2%, which they say means that the average kind of electricity bill is £1,755. For most people, it's an awful lot more than that. Peter in Suffolk says, "Morning, Mike. What was that guest that you had on going on about? There are jobs they don't want to do, but that's not unemployed by choice." Of course it is. I've done loads of jobs they didn't want to do. Well, that's right. I mean, this is the thing. People keep telling me that we've got a massive problem with unemployment, but we've also got a massive problem with job vacancies. So why don't we match up one with the other? You know, why do we not actually say, if you're unemployed and you're claiming benefits and there are jobs in your area that you can do, we don't really care whether you don't want to do them, you're going to be doing them. It's as simple as that. David, South Gloucestershire, said, "Did I hear Miliband and Starmer right? Wasn't the inference that their policies should reduce bills, not will reduce bills? If bills do come down, eventually, by how much will they have gone up before they do?" Yeah, I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. You know, we've still got lots of clips of Starmer and Ed Miliband saying, "Oh, you're going to save 300 quid at some point." But we're not saving any money. All we know is that the price has gone up ever since then. It's that simple. Let's talk to Peter Blake, though, Chief Operating Officer of Haven Holidays, because apparently people are going to have holidays in Haven holiday spots and in British holiday spots a lot more than they were last year. And we can certainly vouch for that because Kevin O'Sullivan, of course, as you might remember, spent 8.5 hours getting to Cornwall on Friday, and he's down there for the next 2 weeks, notwithstanding the hurricane, but he's having a great time. Let's talk, though, now to Peter and find out what is going on in his neck of the woods. Peter, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Good to see you. Apparently, a lot of people are going on holidays at home, particularly in your neck of the woods for Haven holidays, because they take the dog with them.
Yeah, I've just been sort of distracted by your prior comment. I'm off to Cornwall myself with my dog at the weekend, and the 8 hours on a hurricane have started to unsettle me somewhat. But yeah, that's definitely true. And I mean, this really started post-COVID. And I myself actually got a dog in COVID and have joined those thousands of people that now realise that when you've got a dog, it does somewhat restrict foreign travel.
Yes.
So
it changes everything, doesn't it? Because you don't necessarily want to put the dog in a kennel. If you can find somebody to look after the dog while you go abroad, that's all fine and dandy. But also, once you've got a dog, you just want to be with the dog, and you quite enjoy taking the dog everywhere you go.
That's exactly right. And I mean, I think you've got a dog yourself, haven't you?
I have indeed, yeah, absolutely. And
yeah,
so he makes it more and more difficult for you to go anywhere far away.
Well, if it's anything like my dog, I mean, my dog rules the roost. I mean, we pick our holidays, particularly with Haven, based on the fact that almost all of our parks are right on the coast.
Right.
And there is nothing better if you've got a dog. The reason you get a dog is you want to take it for walks, and where better place to take a dog for a walk than on the beach?
Yeah, absolutely right. Have you got what's the most popular sort of destination for you guys in your group?
The South Coast is probably always slightly more popular. Cornwall and Devon always popular.
Yeah.
I guess we get slightly more sort of sunshine on the South Coast, but just more generally, I mean, the summer that we've just had has been pretty much spectacular everywhere, really. So we're sort of everywhere from Glasgow all the way down to Cornwall.
And are you benefiting, do you think, from people kind of just can't afford to go abroad? Because people say to me sometimes it's more expensive to actually go on holiday in Britain than it is to go and get a cheap package holiday abroad.
Yeah, look, we're definitely seeing the benefit of the cost of going abroad is going up. Again, I use an example. I went to France a couple of months ago, but on the train with the dog, by the time you've paid the vet bills and the train, it's definitely much cheaper to stay in the UK.
Yeah, okay. And so what are you looking forward to this summer? If you're going off to Cornwall, what's going on?
Just a family trip. I go there every year. Just love it down there. just hope and pray that it's not the hurricane that you've just promised me, and that it stays as dry as it can do. But yeah, we're visiting one of our parks for a few days and then off to another part of Cornwall. So dry weather is the best you can hope for on a Cornwall trip this time of year, and lots of time with the family, the grandchild and the dog.
Yeah, very good. Haven Holidays, Peter Blake, Chief Operating Officer, thank you very much indeed. He's off to Cornwall. He's going to maybe meet up with Kevin O'Sullivan, the world's angriest man, who went down there, as I say, last Friday. But he's staying there for a couple of weeks. He'll be back soon. Let's get a voice note from Wayne.
Morning, Mr. Graham. It's Wayne from Erdington, Birmingham. Gotta be honest, mate, I just switched over to the dark side, went onto GMB and listened to some stupid minister on there saying the police should be called about Nigel's actions. Police should be called. This is what everybody in Britain thinks. Wakey, wakey, you dopey politicians. That's why none of you lot are going to get into power. Keep up the good work, Mr. Graham. Have a great day.
Wayne, thank you very much indeed. Mark from Somerset says, a great speech from Nigel yesterday. The thing that surprisingly didn't surprise me was the usual press trying to trip him up on the spot with awkward questions. He dealt with them in professional fashion and made them look silly. Thanks. And a great show. No problem at all, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. This is, of course, Morning Glory. We're here for just about another 8 minutes. Julie Hartley-Brewer coming up after 10 o'clock. She'll be here to tell us what's going on her show. And, of course, this is Morning Glory.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's nearly 10 o'clock. It's 5 minutes to 10, and Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here very shortly. She knows what's coming up on her show. Now, earlier this morning, I got into a bit of trouble because I lost my cool, I'm afraid, again. And I got told off from my producer, which is entirely within his remit, because I started going on mad about Rachel Reeves and her new advisor, Torsten Bell. Have a listen. He's gone to Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland to try and prove that everything's going well, shaking hands with a bloke with no teeth. Going, yo, this is great, isn't it fantastic?
That's not you on the guitar.
You know, it's like the Shadows backing group. You know, what's she thinking? This woman is completely and utterly useless. She's also promoted that complete and utter moron, Torsten Bell, who everybody tells me is very important and incredibly intelligent.
Very intelligent.
That's what they all say, right?
Very
Do
intelligent.
you remember when they said Sue Gray was the greatest analyser of government policy in the world, and that she was going to chart the first 100 days, and that she was a woman of great integrity, didn't even last 100 days, 93 days she lasted, and that was her own plan, right? This bloke, Torsten Bell, is the guy that came up with the Ed Stone for Ed Miliband.
The pledges, the commandments.
The 10 Commandments of Ed Miliband.
Didn't the Sun find it in a lockup?
Yeah, it's in a lockup down in Hastings. Yeah. Somebody should just take a hammer to it and start. But this, the problem with politics in this country is that the myths are sort of written by people who don't know anything about the real world, and they go, "Oh, Torsten Bell." First of all, his name's Torsten. That immediately disqualifies him, in my view, from being anybody sensible talking to the general public. I would lock him in a room and don't let him out. And if he's that clever, let's see what he's actually come up with. What has he actually done that makes him clever? What's he done that makes him clever? Sorry, I'm asking you.
I tell you who he worked for. He ran the Resolution Foundation.
So, what's that about?
It's about raising taxes.
Right. So, that makes him how does that make him clever? The guy's a moron. He came up with the Ed Stone. Retire now. Don't even bother going anywhere near the rest of the human race, because you're a complete bloody moron.
Right.
I'd like to have him sitting here where you're sitting, and I know that you might have to defend these people.
I'm not defending him. I'm not defending him.
But, you ran the Resolution Foundation where they went, let's just raise a load of taxes, and anybody who makes any money, just take it off them and give it to some, low-life scumbags who don't want to work, and maybe some migrants. Brilliant. Give the bloody a Nobel Peace Prize. Who cares? Right? I'm sorry. I'm in a bad mood. Sorry about the word. I didn't mean to say that. It came out wrong. I wanted to say twit. There's another word that begins with W and ends in cur that I also wanted to say, but that's why I went with. Anyway, sorry. I know it's early, 6:51. Sorry about that.
Right. Torsten Bell.
What's good about Torsten Bell? End. Anything else?
No.
Sorry.
Look, Rachel Reeves got to find £30 billion of tax rises because borrowing.
Because she's an idiot.
Because she's an idiot.